In a flash, a name is called out in a spiky bubble. Nori. A beautiful girl with striking red eyes and hair smiles, as the name is repeated more clearly. Inori. A woman's hand with red nail polish gently caresses a young man's face as bubbles float by. The young man, Inori, is being held by this mysterious woman. He looks up at her, completely bewildered, wondering who she is. Suddenly, blood splatters across the scene. Inori stares down in shock at a bloody wound on his chest, a golden dagger still in her hand. The woman now holds the dagger, tears streaming down her face as she looks down at him. Inori is stunned, thinking, did she just stab me? Why is she crying? As his vision blurs, his last thought is, how does she know my name? His eyes twitch open. He's holding a book with a ridiculous title, Cry Baby Teacher's Otherworld War. He's back in a classroom, where his classmates are laughing and chatting like normal. This is Inori Takafuji, age 17. He looks completely dazed from the dream he just had. He looks around at the lively classroom and thinks to himself that it must have been a dream, just another ordinary day at school. He thinks to himself that nothing seems out of the ordinary. Or so he thought. A strange purple light suddenly erupts from the floor, and a magic circle engulfs the entire classroom. Panic ensues as his classmates start screaming. Inori groans as he comes to. He pushes himself up, completely disoriented, wondering what just happened. He finds himself in a vast, empty, and bright wasteland. He spots his classmates scattered nearby, all of them just as confused as he is. He realizes with a shock that the classroom is completely gone. The other students start to panic, shouting out and asking what's going on and where they are. One of the tougher-looking students yells, demanding to know what this place is. Inori, however, remains silent. A gentle voice tells them to be at ease as a beautiful, glowing goddess descends from above. She explains that this place is the world's rift, and she is what they would call a goddess. Inori is taken aback. The goddess explains that they have all been summoned to another world as heroes to defeat the demon lord. The class erupts in excitement at the mention of being heroes. She tells them they will be teleported to the kingdom of Haikyuu, in a world of sword and sorcery. Inori can hardly believe it. He clenches his fist, thinking this is just like the stories he's read. The goddess informs them their meeting will be brief. But before they go, she says she will grant them all a gift. Golden light begins to pour from her hands onto the students. As the light envelopes Inori, she explains they've each been given a special ability. She wishes them well, telling them to resist the temptation of power and walk the path of the righteous. Her final words wish them good fortune. The students find themselves in front of a magnificent castle. Inori's eyes still sparkle with a remnant of the goddess's magic. Inside a grand throne room, a saintess announces she has successfully summoned the heroes. The nobles praise her, ecstatic that they are saved. A booming voice from the throne calls for silence. A king in a grand cape welcomes the students, expressing his gratitude for their arrival. He introduces himself as Risen Haikyuu, the sovereign of the kingdom. The king then begins to kneel before them, beseeching the warriors from the other world. With all his knights kneeling behind him, he begs the students to defeat the demon lord. They all look completely shocked. Inori thinks to himself, what a grand welcome. He looks completely unimpressed by the whole display. The class representative, a boy with glasses, rushes forward, nervously telling the king to please stand up. He then timidly asks if there's any way for them to return to their own world. The saintess steps forward, offering to answer the question. She introduces herself as Ijia and confirms that yes, there is a way back. In 1 month, a full moon will rise that will allow them to travel back to their land. Ijia explains that anyone who doesn't want to join the war is free to stay at the palace and leave when the time comes. 2 of the girls look thrilled at the news. Inori dryly thinks that it almost feels like they're just tourists. One of the students asks if a month will have passed in their world when they return. Ijia reassures them with a smile that it will be as if they never left, as this world's time doesn't affect theirs. Inori remains skeptical, thinking it all sounds way too good to be true and wondering what the catch is. Asia asks if anyone wishes to return on the next full moon, assuring them that they won't be stopped even if all of them choose to leave. But, she asks that they reconsider. With tears in her eyes, she begs them to save their realm from the Dark Lord. Inori cynically thinks that this is the part where some hero with main character energy steps up to rally everyone. But no one does. The class remains silent. Of course, Inori thinks, there's no one like that in his class. The class rep speaks for the group, apologizing and explaining that this is all very sudden. He asks the king for some time to think it over. Inori watches his classmates and thinks that they're treading carefully, which he can't disagree with. The king grants their request, giving them a month to decide. But for today, he says, they should enjoy a feast to celebrate their arrival, which gets one of the students very excited. Inori is pleased, thinking he didn't expect to taste otherworld food so soon. He looks down at the lavish spread, curious about the fantasy world ingredients. Suddenly, the same magic circle from the classroom appears under his feet. He wonders if they're being teleported to their bedrooms, wishing they had this kind of magic back on Earth. His mind, however, is still on the food. A classmate calls out his name in alarm. The classmate asks why he's the only one. Inori is engulfed in light as the magic circle activates, separating him from his shocked classmates. He looks just as surprised as they do. Inori blinks, finding himself in a familiar, strange place. He's back in the world's rift. Is this déjà vu, he thinks? The goddess's voice rings out again, welcoming the heroes. And there she is, the goddess, appearing before him once more. And the goddess asks, she wasn't just here a few minutes ago. She cheerfully confirms that she was. The title is revealed, Oversummoned, Overpowered, and Over It. Summoned to a parallel fantasy world many times. Inori stands before the goddess, casually asking, weren't you here just a few minutes ago? She simply replies, yep. The goddess looks a little embarrassed, admitting, how did this happen? Inori asks if he'll be sent to a different place this time. As she floats away, she hesitantly answers, yes. Probably. Before he goes, her hand hovers over his head. Nonetheless, she says, I have to give you another gift since that's the rule. As a new magic circle forms around him, the goddess vanishes, calling out, I have no idea what's happening, but good luck. Inori just sits there, thinking, how irresponsible. In a dark and stormy night, lightning flashes over a strange, industrial-looking building. Inori finds himself in the center of a glowing yellow magic circle. He thinks to himself, I see that this magic circle isn't the same as the last one. His internal monologue continues as he observes, it's yellow instead of purple. And it's got a different pattern. A flash of light reveals a man with green hair looking startled. Before he can analyze it further, he decides, I'll have to come back to that thought later. He opens his eyes and, oh boy, this is not good. He's been strapped down to a metal slab, gagged, and chained up. This summoning seems a lot less friendly than the others. A sinister-looking old man with a monocle leans over him and declares, summoning is complete. His equally creepy, green-haired assistant chimes in with a wild grin, indeed, Doctor. How about we name it Subject 12? The assistant looks absolutely giddy. The old doctor examines Inori closely, muttering, I have a feeling that this experimental subject possesses an attack-type demon eye. Inori is horrified, thinking, did that guy just call me a subject? He's clearly sweating now, and his eyes dart around nervously. Looking down the grim, pipelined hallway of his prison, he thinks, I have a real bad feeling about this one. The two mad scientists look positively gleeful. Commencing experiment, the old doctor announces. We shall proceed slowly. And carefully, his assistant eagerly replies, yes, doctor. Inori's sarcasm kicks in as he thinks to himself, so, am I dealing with Dr. Frankenstein and Igor now? He gives a deadpan stare, completely over this situation already. His internal thought finishes with a sigh, great. Just great. The doctor brings a gleaming scalpel right up to Inori's eye. "Let's see what your demon eye has in store for us," he says with a wicked grin. Inori flinches in alarm. The doctor explains that it is said that humans from other worlds receive a demon eye upon crossing over. A vision of Inori's glowing red eye appears. Standing beside a tray of very sharp-looking tools, the doctor chuckles menacingly. "And our job is to prove that it's not just a myth." The pieces click into place for Inori. He thinks, "I see. So a demon eye was the gift I received when I was summoned to this world." The doctor holds up his hand, generating a magical symbol. "Now, go to sleep," he commands. "This hypnosis will make sure that you stay still." The glowing hypnosis spell floats right up to Inori's face. The doctor presses the spell onto Inori's forehead, laughing as if his victory is assured. But his laughter stops short. He stares in disbelief, smoke coming from his mouth, as he realizes the hypnosis. It's not working. He shouts in frustration, "How? I used an advanced version of the spell." Inori, completely unaffected, scoffs internally. "Advanced? This?" The assistant points at Inori, yelling in a panic, "Doctor! This subject!" The assistant reveals the truth, exclaiming, his right eye is the demon eye of vision. And his left eye is the demon eye of magic circles. Inori's two different colored eyes glow with power. The doctor is utterly flabbergasted, shouting, "What?" His assistant is beyond thrilled, shaking the doctor by his coat. A subject with not just one, but two potent demon eyes? We just found our gold mine. The doctor decides to just go for it. "In that case, we will proceed with the experiment without hypnotizing him," his assistant eagerly agrees. Inori is horrified, thinking, "They're going to cut me open like this? That's torture, not an experiment." He struggles in his restraints, a desperate plan forming in his mind. "I have to do something. Maybe I can use these demon eyes to escape." Suddenly, a green magic circle erupts from under him, much to his surprise. As he's enveloped in a pillar of green light, the two scientists can only stare in shock. Inori, on the other hand, thinks with perfect calm, "Oh, perfect timing." And just like that, he's free from the lab, looking as stoic as ever. He's back with the goddess again. She looks stunned. "You're back again," he smirks. "Why, do you like me or something?" She dismisses it, saying, "It just happened." He looks up at her, getting serious. "Do you really have no idea what's causing this?" The goddess drops her formal tone. "Nah. You're the first one to go through this phenomenon. I'll look into it and let you know when if you return." As another magic circle whisks him away, Inori thinks, so that's how she normally talks, huh? What a twist. Also, did she just almost say "when I return"? He appears outside a fancy-looking building. And so, in the next world, he begins to narrate his experiences. "I met a noble girl. And a woman who seemed to be an elf." The noble girl looks absolutely ecstatic and out of breath. The elf woman congratulates her. "Lady lied. You summoned a humanoid monster on your first attempt. Your talent is unmatched." Inori glares, baring some sharp teeth, and starts to snap back, "Hey, who you calling a monster?" His narration continues, explaining how they tried to prick his finger with a needle. "They mistook me as a summoned monstrosity and almost bound me to a pact of servitude." Apparently, his protest involved some fire, because the two women are now screaming in terror as flames erupt around them. He explains, "But the timely activation of another magic circle saved me." With a sparkling grin, he arrives back in the rift, announcing, "I'm back." The goddess looks completely done with this. "Ugh." Again, she groans. Inori explains his journey to her. "So, did you find out why I'm being summoned from place to place?" he asks. "Sort of," she replies. She explains that his soul is as powerful as a saint's, which is why he keeps getting transferred to other worlds that need saving. She adds, "And you have the easiest soul to grab when a summoning is made, I see." He's confused. But how? I'm just an ordinary high schooler, not a saint. The goddess explains, the strength of a soul has nothing to do with one's disposition, but rather, the strength of one's ego. She tells him that the constant summoning will stop once he is bound to a world by something like the pact of a hero. In yet another world, he's greeted by a young, regal-looking girl holding a crystal ball. She says, I see you possess a skill named Skill Thief. His first thought is, predictably, huh? She's cute. He narrates, on the fourth summon, I received yet another gift. His hand glows with a new power. He continues, I tried to forge the pact of a hero to bind my soul to that world. The cute princess blushes and eagerly agrees, let's do it. But just as he's about to seal the deal, another magic circle appears. But the summoning magic circle activated once again. His travels continue. The fifth one was a summoning by black magic. He was summoned by a dark sorceress and immediately used as a sacrifice. I received a pact of that nature, he recalls. And on the sixth summon, he lands in a hellish landscape, where a demon announces his arrival as the new Dark Majesty. I became a demon lord. After that experience, he sits in the void, surrounded by a dark, powerful aura. Back with the goddess one more time. She looks at him with a serious expression. You have become absurdly powerful. Inori, lying down and looking up at his hand, nonchalantly agrees. Sure, looks like it. The goddess tells him she has a feeling that the next summon will be his last. He sits up, intrigued. Really? She places her hand over his head one last time. Let me combine your abilities before you go, she says. Check your status once you're summoned. She adds a final instruction, you'll be able to see it with your right eye. He arrives in front of a beautiful castle to a booming voice welcoming the heroes. Inori looks completely unimpressed. I guess I'm a hero again, he thinks with a sigh. Someone nearby sounds confused. He looks over and sees he's not alone this time. There are 3 other high school students standing near him. Who are they, he wonders. One of them, a 17-year-old named Ryuto Shinzaki, looks around in amazement, asking if he's in a castle. The other 2, Tamaki Karasawa and Aoi Isagai, call out to each other by name, confirming they're all acquainted. A king on a throne high above them looks down at the 4 summoned individuals, clearly confused. The king thinks to himself, a sweat drop on his brow. According to the lore, heroes should be summoned in 3. Inori watches the other 3 interact, and a realization dawns on him. He sits down, putting the pieces together. Let's see. We were summoned at the same time, but seeing that they called each other by their names, they must know each other. Which means, he shouts in his head with utter despair. I was summoned as a 4th wheel. In the grand throne room, Inori and the 3 other students stand before the king, who looks down on them from his elevated seat. The king looks completely baffled, pointing at the group and asking, does that mean? He finishes his question, clarifying. You 3 are the heroes. And you are just a regular person who was summoned alongside them. Inori, standing off to the side, just shrugs it off. It sure looks that way to me, he says. The king looks deeply troubled by this. But that cannot be. Such a thing has never happened before, he mutters. Suddenly, a cheerful voice interrupts, calling out, hey, heroes. A young blonde princess with twin tails pops out from beside the throne, beaming with pride. I'm the first princess, the one who summoned you here, she announces. You can thank me for that. Inori watches her with a tired expression, thinking to himself, ah yes, the pompous princess that every fantasy story needs. She strikes a pose, declaring, let me be the first one. To greet you to the kingdom of the rising sun, the king just looks exhausted by her antics. She begins her exposition dump, explaining, in this world, there are humans, demi-humans, and demons. We humans have been fighting demons for some time. She continues, her tone getting more serious, and recently, the demon lord found a way to unite them and invade our human realms. That is when the human empire of Makard, our ally, requested the aid of other countries, asking them to summon heroes. She points to herself with a huge grin. But the only person who can summon them is a woman of royal lineage. In other words, me. With a grand vision of trained heroes in her eyes, she explains her plan. My plan is to make an army consisting of summoned heroes. After they undergo training in their respective nations. She closes her eyes with a smug smile. Awesome, isn't it? Inori is less than impressed, thinking, an army of us? How many is she planning to summon? A sweat drop runs down his face as a dark thought crosses his mind. I hope she doesn't use us like fodder. The princess carries on, completely oblivious. You have the honor of representing the kingdom of the rising sun. I expect you to train the hardest, become the strongest, and defeat the demon lord. One of the heroes, Tamaki, can't help but snicker, that name. It's so cheesy. The hero leader, Ryuto, steps forward to ask a question. Your Highness, if I may ask. Is there any way for us to go back to our world? The princess's chipper expression immediately vanishes. She turns to them with a cold look and states flatly, no, there isn't. All three heroes are completely shocked by her answer. She wags a finger at them condescendingly. Also, you should thank me instead of asking a question like that. Not everyone gets to become heroes, you know. Inori can't believe it. He thinks, what do you mean there's no way to go back? Ugh, I missed the kingdom of Hygen. The king decides to get things back on track. If that is all, then we shall proceed with the next step. He motions to a robed figure, ordering, place your hands on the steel so that we can confirm your heroic blessings. The attendant brings forward a cushioned box containing an ancient stone tablet covered in glowing runes. Ryuto goes first. He touches the steel, and a wave of blue energy bursts forth. His blessing is revealed, limit break. Next up are the girls. Aoi is surrounded by a green light, revealing her blessing to be barrier conjuration. Tamaki is then enveloped in a fiery orange glow, showing her blessing is mana affinity. As it becomes his turn, Inori wonders to himself, I wonder what mine will be. He places his hand on the tablet, and a simple yellow light emanates from it. His blessing is detection. He's a bit confused, thinking, detection? The king seems relieved, thinking that at least he has a blessing. Inori, on the other hand, is already comparing. Theirs sound like combat skills. Whereas mine sounds like a utility skill made for a rogue or something. Inori narrates what happened next. They made us take a physical and magic test after that. We see them all running, with Inori already lagging way behind. He explains, Ryuto destroyed the former with his monstrous physicality. And Aoi and Tamaki aced the latter with their amazing magical capabilities. As for myself, I found out that I had some magic power, but as he tries to use it, it fizzles out weakly. But I sucked at controlling it and had zero potential for growth. I wasn't physically great, either. In fact, I felt weaker than when I was back on Earth. He's shown completely out of breath and exhausted, while the other three heroes are perfectly fine, chatting happily in the background. I felt slightly ashamed to be outclassed by the girls. But I came to terms with it after reminding myself that they're heroes. He collapses in defeat. Later that night, he was invited to Ryuto's room to discuss what to do next. Inori looks around the spacious room, thinking, his room's definitely bigger than mine. He hears one of the heroes talking and wonders what they're saying. Ryuto then glances over at him. Tamaki points directly at Inori, who she labels regular guy. We're heroes, and he's not, she says bluntly. He shouldn't be here. Inori puts on a strained smile, thinking, I'm sitting right here, you know. Tamaki quickly tries to backtrack, saying, and just so you know, I'm not saying this because I'm worried he'll. Inori immediately sees through her, thinking, I see. She's the type who cares but pretends not to. He smiles to himself. She's clearly not good at hiding it. Ryuto crosses his arms and firmly states, no, he stays. His detection may come in handy later. Inori observes the group, thinking, I see that these heroes have different opinions about me. Inori correctly guesses Ryuto's reasoning, that he lacks combat abilities and will need Aoi, the barriermancer, to protect him. Aoi, leaning against a chair, just says softly, if you say so. Inori's internal commentary continues, unlike Tamaki, Aoi's very soft-spoken, but her facial expressions are cute. He watches the three of them chatting. Also, they've all got the looks on top of their power. What a life, he thinks with a sigh. Tamaki leans in and asks Ryuto, so, you think we should stay here? Ryuto pauses to think. Just as Inori is about to speak, Ryuto confidently declares, absolutely. They've been good to us so far. Inori holds up a finger, saying decisively, we should all stay then. He slyly passes a note to the others under the table. It reads, they're spying on us. Don't say anything that'll draw suspicion. The three heroes look shocked. He adds aloud, you can thank my blessing for that. He gives them a clever smirk. He thinks to himself, quite pleased, looks like I have the first win. Inori thinks to himself, so, my blessing, detection. He smiles, a golden glow surrounding him. Is surprisingly useful, he continues in his head. He explains that it allows him to detect living beings through walls. Right now, I can sense that someone is eavesdropping on us behind that door. Meanwhile, Ryuto is telling one of the maids that they've dismissed all the staff tending to the room. Inori processes this information. Which means the person outside is either a maid who came back or a stranger, he concludes internally. He quickly scribbles a note on a piece of paper. It reads, not sure if they'll notice, but... Could you create a soundproof barrier, Aoi? The three heroes look up in surprise. Aoi gives a firm nod. Her hands glow with a vibrant green light as she raises her arms, concentrating to form a large barrier around them with a grunt. She's clearly struggling, shouting, it's working, but hurry. I can't hold it for long because I'm still new to this. Ryuto gives her a big thumbs up, exclaiming, this is awesome. Thanks, Aoi, she blushes and giggles shyly. Inori looks on, completely deadpan. Seriously, he thinks. You're flirting right now? Tamaki gets straight to the point, asking, why are they spying on us, anyway? Inori replies, well, if you think about it. Ryuto explains that their blessings could be a serious threat if they fell into the wrong hands, so he's not surprised they're being watched. Tamaki slams her hand down, angrily pointing out that it's not fair since they were summoned without their consent. Inori calmly offers his own theory. I think they're desperate, he says, catching the others off guard. He continues, I can't say this with full confidence since I know nothing of this world, but there are so many indications that the kingdom is not doing well financially. He lays out his evidence. First, the king is too exposed for a monarch. Second, there are very few guards. Tamaki counters that the food seemed expensive and tasty. Inori clarifies that while it was well seasoned, it wasn't particularly fancy. He looks disgusted, thinking, delicious? What? It was horrible. Tamaki also points out how small and simple their rooms are for heroes, comparing them to a footman's place. Inori can only think to himself, it's still bigger than my room though. He reflects on his ability to notice these things. Since it's their first summon, they're probably wondering how I'm taking all this into account. It's all thanks to the kingdom of Hygen for being the base of comparison. Inori lays out a possible plan. Depending on what happens, we may have to leave the kingdom. If it comes to that, we can use my detection to avoid guards and escape this place. He adds that they'd still need to find a way home. Tamaki points out the princess said there's no way back, but Inori suggests she might be lying. He figures she'd lie to keep her kingdom's only hopes from leaving. This won't be easy, he concludes. Ryuto agrees with his points but decides they should go with the flow for now, since they're still weak. Suddenly, Tamaki leans in very close to Inori, making him flinch. She points right at his face. Your left eye looks strange. Why is it yellow? He's totally caught off guard. His mind goes into full-on panic mode. Ah, dang it. He covers his face, thinking, I forgot about my odd, non-matching eyes. I look so suspicious right now. As Ryuto talks to Tamaki, telling her that everyone has secrets they want to hide, Inori tries to discreetly cover his yellow eye. Ryuto smirks, telling Tamaki to give Inori a break because he's just going through that phase a bit later than them. Inori is mortified. Does he think that I'm an emo kid wearing color contacts? He considers it for a moment, then thinks, actually, that's quite a convincing character to play. Ryuto passionately declares that anime isn't a phase. Later, Inori is alone in his room, sitting on his bed. He thinks about his demon eyes and what skills he received, then remembers he can check his status window just by picturing it. A green, holographic status window materializes in front of him with a ding. He reads his stats. His name is Inori Takafuji, and his race is Demon, Vampire, Baron. He comments that the numbers look high, but he can't be sure since he doesn't know the average. He flashes back to his exhaustion during the physical test. Also, how was I so bad at the aptitude test with these stats, he wonders. He decides to move on, thinking, whatever. Let's see what skills I have. He lists off the skills he's accumulated: Demon Eye of Sight, Demon Eye of Magic Circles, Skill Thief, and Black Magic. He also remembers his newest skill, Detection. I gained so many of them through all those summons, he realizes. He also remembers his time as a summoned monster for that noble girl and the elf. His status window confirms his race: Demon, Vampire, Baron. A small smile plays on his lips, revealing fangs. I see that the summoning really did turn me into a demonic vampire, he thinks. Or should I say, a humanoid monster? Another skill pops up, Sun God Scorn, which explains that as a creature of the night, his stats are reduced by 90% during the day. Ah, he thinks, this explains why I flopped in the afternoon test. He recalls feeling weak and dizzy during the trial because of the sunlight. And hated dinner because the dish contained garlic, he adds, remembering his disgusted reaction at the table. He thinks back to when he first met Aoi and Tamaki. I was more drawn to the blood flowing under their necks and skin, not their looks, he realizes with a start, seeing a vision of their circulatory systems. He slumps on his bed, covering his face. I failed to see what was happening with me, because I was so busy scanning the outside with detection. I realized too late that I had odd eyes, and that I'd become a vampire. He decides to be proactive. I should take this chance to learn more about myself. Let's start by digging into each skill. In a hazy flashback, we see the terrified faces of people as they scream during a chaotic summoning. Inori sits in his room, pondering everything that's happened. He thinks, I obtained a lot of skills through those summons, as he looks over his status window. Starting with Detection, a skill that allows me to sense the activity of creatures within recognizable range. He turns his attention to a lit candle on his desk, thinking, next up is a skill that uses mana to create a weapon from any material. He focuses his energy on the candle wax, which begins to glow brightly. It's called Craft Weapon. In his hand, a sharp, clean knife appears, formed from the wax. He looks at it, impressed. Whoa! He continues his self-analysis. There are also skills that manifest physically, such as my red demon eye of vision on the right. A window pops up, listing its many abilities, from superhuman acuity to X-ray vision, which is specialized in everything sight-related. And my yellow demon eye of magic circles on the left, which I have absolutely no clue as to how it works. He reads the description, which says it allows him to move a magic circle he's seen into his pupil and activate it at will. He just thinks, this doesn't make any sense. He sighs, deciding, maybe I should come back to it once I've learned this world's magic. He scrolls through his skills list, noting, also, there are many skills I still know nothing about. But the description of drain blood sounds simple and straightforward. He reads the horrifying details. Fatally draining someone can turn them into a ghoul, and if the victim is a virgin, he can turn them into a vampire servant by feeding them his blood. He continues reading. He can also turn anything into a familiar, and if he drains all of a victim's blood, he gains their memories and skills. A crazed, bloody smile spreads across his face as he realizes, goodness, I really am a monster. The implications sink in. On top of making others my servants, I can steal their memories and skills, he thinks, a vision of him biting a victim's neck flashing in his mind. He lies back on his bed, hands behind his head, a relaxed smile on his face. So I can do all that at night, huh? He stretches, feeling pretty pleased with himself. Man, it feels good to be powerful. But first, I should get to know this world a little better. The next day, the 4 students are in a training yard, greeted by the blonde knight commander. Greetings, heroes. I am Ariana, commander of the Knights of the Rising Sun, and your physical combat instructor. Inori looks surprised, thinking, the knight commander of a medieval fantasy kingdom is a woman. I guess anything is possible in another world, he muses, before adding cynically, I wonder if she's actually good. Or if she's all that the kingdom can afford. Ariana addresses the 2 girls. You 2 may be magic users, but that doesn't mean you are excused from learning the basics. Is that clear? They both respond enthusiastically, yes, ma'am. She continues, now, we normally start with strength training, but it appears that many of you don't need it. Inori thinks dryly, I mean, duh. With a beep, a status screen for Ryuto appears, showing his ridiculously high stats. Another beep, and Tamaki's status screen shows up, equally impressive in its own way. A final beep brings up Aoi's stats, showcasing her high intelligence and mana. Inori observes them, thinking, look at their statuses. They're literally superhumans. Ariana addresses the 3 heroes by name, telling them they can choose their specialization after learning the basics. Then she turns to Inori. As for you, Inori, he looks up, confused. You will undergo intense physical training. Until you meet our military fitness standards, she finishes. Inori is already on the ground, struggling through push-ups and collapsing in exhaustion, barely able to answer, yes. Ma'am, he thinks about how daytime is a nightmare for him now that he's a vampire, making him sleepy and giving him headaches from the sun. Ariana looks down at him, completely unimpressed. I will personally see to it that you succeed. Now, hustle. Inori feels dizzy, thinking he won't have the energy to escape at this rate. Just then, the 2 princesses arrive, with the first princess waving cheerfully. He groans internally, ugh, it's that annoying princess again. He then notices her companion. And who's she, he wonders, looking at the second, calmer princess. He sizes her up. Seeing she's attended by a maid, he figures she must also be royal. He admits to himself that she's pretty, but something feels off. That smile looks very fake, he thinks. Ariana snaps to attention, greeting them formally, Your Highnesses, I did not expect you to visit us. Inori, still on the ground, puts 2 and 2 together. Aha, so she's a princess as well. The second princess smiles gently. Be at ease. We are just here to observe our heroes' training. The first princess, not to be outdone, puffs out her chest. I have allocated my precious time to see the first steps of your journey in person. Consider yourselves honored. Inori just sighs, thinking, I figured she'd say something like that. To his surprise, the second princess approaches him directly. It is a pleasure to meet you, Sir Inori Takafuji. I am the second princess of the Kingdom of the Rising Sun. She smiles down at him. But you can call me. Your daytime tutor Rinori is completely baffled. Later, in a palace chamber filled with books, the second princess explains his new schedule. You will receive Commander Ariana's training in the morning. And attend my class in the afternoon, she finishes with a pleasant smile. The one-on-one situation is awkward for Inori. He thinks, this feels so awkward. Yep, I'm definitely the black sheep of the group. He remembers how the first princess had separated them. The other 3 are taking the first princess's class. In a separate room. Why? He recalls her condescending words, I have no time to waste on someone who's not a hero. Know your place. Back in the library, he rests his chin on his hand, a determined look in his eyes. That's why. Someday, I'll make her regret this. The second princess stands at the front of the classroom, ready to start. Now, I shall begin the lesson, but Inori raises his hand, interrupting, Can I ask you a question first? She gives him a pleasant smile and says, "Go ahead," he asks, "if you are the second princess. Then does that mean you are younger than the first princess?" She calmly replies, "No, it is the other way around, actually." She explains with a distant look, "But my younger sister was made the crown princess due to complicated reasons." Inori thinks to himself, reasons that probably involve politics, I assume. He looks down, a sweat drop on his face as he considers the implications. He decides it's best not to pry. "I'm curious, but succession affairs are a whole different beast. I should mind my own business for now," he thinks, looking at the complex diagrams in his textbook. The princess begins the history lesson. The kingdom of the rising sun was founded by a sorceress, one of the original heroes, who defeated the first demon lord in a spectacular battle of magic. Because the kingdom's founder was a powerful woman known as the witch, its society revolves around religion and has traditionally placed women at its center. For generations, queens have been the crown monarchs. And their husbands, the kings, have ruled as regents. This means that although kings are technically the rulers, queens can always take away their power through divorce. Ouch. So, the second princess taught him the fundamentals of the kingdom's history and magic. He internally summarizes the lesson as, "Yep, the boring stuff." The princess looks over, unimpressed, to find him completely asleep at his desk. Later that night, the moon shines brightly over the castle. Inori sits on his bed, reviewing his notes. The princess had told him she would teach magic theories tomorrow and practical magic the day after. She also lent him a tome of basic magic, which he flips through. He recalls how she just smiled like a robot, even though he'd slept through her lesson and then brazenly asked to borrow the book. That was definitely a business smile, not a happy smile, he thinks with a smirk. He looks at a complex magic circle in the book. But all in all, he thinks, I have what I need to conduct new experiments. It's time to test out his demon eye of magic circle. His yellow eye flashes with power. He follows the instructions he remembers. Look at the magic circle, save it in the eye, and activate it at will. He tries, but nothing happens. He sits on his bed, confused. Nothing. Did the saving part even work? I didn't feel anything. He tries other magic circles from the book. He closes the book in frustration. But none of them worked. Welp, that sucks. He pauses, a new idea striking him. Wait. He remembers his other powerful eye. What if I use the other eye, he wonders. He sits down at his desk, where a quill and some parchment are laid out. Using the quill, he begins to perfectly replicate a very complex magic circle from memory. His red eye glows as he concentrates. Yes, he thinks. I could clearly picture it. He's remembering the advanced hypnosis magic. A flashback shows the mad doctor from the second world casting the spell on him. Which the doctor used in the world that gave me these demon eyes. He knows that normally, it's impossible to draw such a complex pattern from memory alone. He holds up the finished drawing. But thanks to my demon eye of vision and its memorize image skill, I can picture it clearly. He focuses his yellow eye on the drawing, and it begins to glow, absorbing the magic circles pattern with crackling energy. He feels a surge of power. Something feels different. Did it work? Time to test it. He picks up a handbell and rings it. A moment later, a maid appears. I have answered your summon, Sir Inori. How may I assist? He asks, Miss Nala, could you do me a favor? She looks a little confused. His yellow eye flashes as he unleashes the hypnosis spell. The maid is suddenly surrounded by the glowing hypnosis circles, completely shocked. Her eyes glaze over as the spell takes effect. Inori thinks, did it work? Let's ask her something random to check. He asks the most random thing he can think of. Could you tell me the color of the underwear you are wearing today? She answers in a monotone voice, black. He gives a quick glance with his glowing red eye, using X-ray vision to confirm. She's telling the truth. He puts his hand to his chin, a look of realization on his face. So the advanced hypnosis magic works with demon eye of magic circles. A thought strikes him as images of different magic circles float in his mind. Wait. This magic is from the world where I received these eyes. I wonder if the demon eye can only store magic I saw in that world. Inori's yellow eye glows, the hypnosis magic circle stored within it. He thinks, this magic is from the world where I received these eyes. A quick recap shows the hypnosis magic activating on the unsuspecting maid, Nala. When he asks for the color of her underwear, she blankly replies, black. The success of the spell leads him to wonder, I wonder if the demon eye of magic circles can only store magic I saw in that world. He looks at the still hypnotized maid, pondering his limitations. If that's true, can I only use advanced hypnosis magic? He leans over his desk, grabbing a quill. No, I can't assume that yet, he thinks, a determined look on his face. He has a flash of insight, remembering all the teleportation circles from his constant summoning. He realizes that since his red eye saw all of them, he should be able to recall them. He puts his theory to the test. He pictures one of the teleportation circles and focuses on saving it in his yellow eye. Then, with a huge flash of golden energy, he activates it. It works! He's teleported outside in a swirl of magical energy. He thinks, completely amazed, that he was teleported to a place he saw earlier, just as he'd planned. His eyes glow with power as he figures out the perfect combo. He can use the red eye's far sight to find a location, then use the teleport spell stored in his yellow eye to go there instantly. Standing outside under the full moon, a new sense of freedom washes over him. Now that I know I can get out of the palace anytime I want. I should experiment with the skills at night since that's when I can use them all, he thinks, standing by a ruined wall. He begins practicing with his black magic, first manipulating surrounding rocks with a skill called Black Magic Control. He learns he can use it to take control of inanimate materials, move them at will, and even store them in his shadow. He finds a strange limitation, though. Objects under his control can't affect objects that aren't, simply phasing through them. But he finds an easy fix, just release control and punch the object into the target. It's convenient but also oddly inconvenient, he notes. Next, he tests another skill, Black Magic Shadow Shift, which allows him to sink into his own shadow. It's a skill that lets him use his shadow to freely move through terrains, even appearing inside a tree. He's amazed by how spacious it is inside the shadow dimension. Now, holding a levitating rock, he decides to test another ability, wondering if learned skill works the way he thinks it does. He activates Craft Weapon. A glowing golden sword forms in his hand. This should do, he thinks, closing his eyes to focus. During his physical training, he had used his demon eye of vision to capture the Knight Commander's every move. Now, he just needs to copy them. He flawlessly replicates her sword techniques. After a particularly intense swing, he pants, feeling like something just clicked into place. A ding sound goes off, and a status window appears as he leans on his sword to catch his breath. The notification reads, "You obtained Swordsmanship LV1. He thinks with satisfaction, so, I was right. He stands up, feeling confident. It takes some time to learn a skill, but it works. He decides to level up next, but a rustle in the bushes interrupts him. A massive, bird-like monster with glowing red eyes appears. He immediately gets nervous. What is that thing? A bird? No, it must be a monster. He uses one of his skills, Identify. The monster's stats appear, showing it's a nameless bird fiend Kecho, and it is absurdly strong. Wait, what? That thing is so strong, he thinks in disbelief. He remembers hearing that their feathers are a kingdom specialty and are even used to make his mattress. Hiding in a bush, he wonders how anyone hunts such strong monsters. He decides to start with weaker fiends and spots some bear-like creatures, but their stats were also incredibly high, with some numbers even higher than his own. Looking at a huge, intimidating beast on a cliff, he starts to wonder if all the fiends in this forest are high-leveled. He sits on a rock, looking utterly defeated. Or if I was too weak, he thinks, his confidence shattered. Inori is still in the dark forest, observing a large, bear-like fiend. He thinks to himself that all the monsters in the forest are stronger than he expected. He figures with his current stats, he could take one down, but he's not confident about winning if they ganged up on him. He decides to play it safe. Let's just go back for now. I can test level up later, he thinks. Back at the palace, the sound of heels clacking echoes through the halls. It's Knight Commander Ariana, walking through a dimly lit corridor with a lantern. She spots someone and says, "Your Highness." It's the second princess, Aliyah. Ariana warns her that while the palace may be safe, she shouldn't be walking the corridors at night without guards. The princess greets her with a serene smile. "Ah, Knight Commander Esh. May I have a word with you?" Ariana gets straight to the point, stating that she was told artifacts aren't being used in Inori's training. She confirms this is true for all the heroes. The princess questions this, asking why they don't introduce artifacts sooner since they'll have to use them eventually. Ariana explains her philosophy, saying that while artifacts amplify strength, the heroes aren't ready. Without a solid foundation, they'll become overly dependent on their tools. She concludes, "I believe that to prevent such from happening, it is best that we keep our eyes on them and prepare them thoroughly." The princess is silent for a moment, taking in the commander's words. She then smiles brightly. "I see. I was rash to question the ways of humanity's mightiest." Ariana looks at her sadly. "Your smile has lost the radiance it once had." The princess's face is shadowed as she stays silent. She turns away, replying coolly, "Has it? I did not notice." Ariana presses further, asking for the princess's opinion on her sister, the first princess. The princess gives a very diplomatic answer, calling her sister talented and ambitious. Ariana isn't convinced and asks if that's her true belief. The princess immediately gets defensive, asking what she's implying. Ariana warns her that the palace is full of spies and watchful ears. The princess walks away, issuing a warning of her own, "Tread carefully as our kingdom is not so forgiving to the ones who slander the crown princess." Ariana simply replies, "Yes, Your Highness." As the princess leaves, Ariana thinks about her, sensing the worry and care behind her words. She tells herself not to be worried. A few days later. 2 weeks have passed since the summoning. Inori watches the other 3 heroes train, noting they've all made great progress. Ryuto, who always seemed comfortable with swords, has continued down the path of a swordsman, swinging a blade glowing with blue energy. Meanwhile, Tamaki spent her time learning to use staffs, but not for casting magic. Instead, she's using it as a blunt weapon, smashing it into the ground with fiery force. Inori admits he's been questioning her logic for a while. As for Aoi, she's taken an interest in archery. Normally an archer would need protection, but Aoi is an exception since she can conjure her own barriers. Inori watches her, genuinely impressed. He summarizes their party roles. Ryuto is the close combat specialist. Tamaki is a strong ranged attacker who's also good at smashing things. And Aoi is a fleet-footed sharpshooter who can also defend people. All in all, he thinks they have a pretty well-balanced party. As for him, his combat training only started 3 days ago, and they seem to be focusing on teaching him how to throw weapons. He's also being taught how to conceal himself, move stealthily, and disarm traps. He figures they're training him to be an assassin, which is fair since he's weak. He uses his free time at night to practice his own skills, combining black magic with his dagger throwing to create powerful projectiles that he can guide at will. He looks at the dagger embedded in a tree, thinking it's a shame he can't use these skills or learn new ones during the day. He looks up at the moon, lamenting the sun god's scorn curse and hoping it'll disappear if he levels up enough. For now, he decides to focus on upgrading his skills and leveling up, using his shadow shift ability to move through the forest. He's ready to hunt, but a giant bird foot stomps down in front of him. It's the Kecho, munching away on some fruit under the moonlight. Suddenly, the Kecho is startled and takes off. In a flash, Inori emerges from the shadows with a demonic grin, his hands transformed into shadowy claws. The gachiakuta lets out a terrified screech. With a brutal slash, Inori takes down the monster, standing over its body. Inori stands in the dark forest, black mana threads wrapping around his fingers. He thinks, it's time to use the upgraded dark mana wires I made through craft weapon. A shadowy silhouette of him appears, with the massive gachiakuta monster trapped behind him in a web of dark energy. He unleashes his new technique, umbral web. The monster screeches in terror as it's ensnared by the wires. With one eye covered, Inori's yellow demon eye glows menacingly. "Look me in the eye, monster," he commands. The hypnosis magic circle flares to life within his eye. The spell is reflected in the gachiaku's now glowing eye as it falls under his control. Inori smirks, his fangs showing. Excellent. He approaches the completely immobilized monster, thinking through his strategy. The umbral web captures and the yellow eye hypnotizes. With the monster helpless, he stabs it. He holds a blade to its throat, thinking about his limitations. "I can't control a living entity using black magic. But I can control it and do whatever I want with it once it's dead." He uses his black magic to levitate the corpse and absorb it into his shadow. Inside his shadow dimension, he declares the experiment a success. Now he can dissect fiends to learn about them. He decides to level up by using drain blood and plans to repeat the process. He emerges from his shadow to find his next target, a sleeping, lizard-like monster. He looks at it with a bit of disgust, but a hungry burp escapes him. "That one doesn't look appetizing, but beggars can't be choosers," he thinks. His new routine is set: hunt until the method stops working, and then teleport back to his room. He's shown fast asleep just as dawn breaks. This has become his nightly routine. The next morning, the maid Nala wakes him with a cheerful greeting. He explains that he set a rule for her hypnosis and has been using their sessions to learn about the kingdom over the past 2 weeks. He learned that the current queen couldn't bear a child for a long time. This was a serious problem, since the kingdom is a matriarchy and the crown must pass to a princess. To make matters worse, the royal family was prone to illness, and many died young, leaving no one to inherit the throne. Desperate, the kingdom accepted a noblewoman from a collateral family as the king's concubine. She conceived a child. That child was Aaliyah. Her name literally means successor of the crown, and the people rejoiced at her birth. Aaliyah grew into a diligent princess loved by all. But, the year she turned 7, the king and queen finally gave birth to a daughter of their own. They named her Amanda. Her name meant the loved one, and she showed immense magical talent from a young age. The queen was overjoyed that Amanda inherited her magical power and showered her with love. Aaliyah, on the other hand, was withdrawn from the royal succession lessons. When Amanda turned 7, the queen held a ceremony for her. She officially became the first princess, pushing Aaliyah aside. The people cheered for their new crown princess. Aaliyah was left to watch from the sidelines, completely alone. She forced a smile, but her world had been turned upside down. And Aaliyah's name, once a symbol of hope, lost all its meaning. Forgotten by her people, abandoned by her mother, and unwanted by suitors. Aaliyah has been forced to live a life in solitude, like a doll. Inori, feigning sleep at his desk, thinks, she's just like me and that no one expects anything from her. The princess tries to wake him. "Please wake up, Sir Inori." She starts lecturing him, saying knowledge is essential to survival. Inori lets out a huge yawn, wondering what's gotten into her today, since she's never nagged him before. She mentions hearing that he's been learning covert tactics in his physical training. She compliments him, saying that while he may not be talented in magic, he seems to be good at his other lessons. Inori lies, claiming he can't use this world's magic and must be a rare case, since even commoners can use basic spells. The princess argues that Knight Commander Esh wouldn't waste time on him if she didn't see potential. Inori just stretches and thinks sarcastically that maybe Ariana just sees him as a useful underling for the heroes. The princess leans in, her expression intense. "No, I believe that you can become strong. That is why you must put more effort into your training. Inori is completely taken aback by her sudden change in demeanor. She turns and says firmly, "Follow me." He follows her down a winding stone staircase. She leads him to a huge set of doors, which glow with a powerful light as they open. Her hand glows with magic as she announces, "We'll continue your training in this room." Her tone becomes sharp and accusatory. "You are a hero, yet people call you a weakling." Her eyes glow as a powerful aura surrounds her. "Tell me, are you not ashamed?" Inori is completely stunned. "Huh," he thinks. Again, what's gotten into her today? Inori thinks back on what he learned from the maid. The second princess has been hiding her emotions ever since an unfortunate turn of events. She concealed them so well that people called her the doll princess. But now, as Inori faces her, he thinks she's different. She's no longer the quiet and reserved second princess. He watches as she leads him through a grand, empty hall. She turns her head and warns him, "They will exile you from the castle at this rate." Inori is taken aback. "Huh?" he asks. She quotes the queen, "We have no obligation to raise incompetent losers who refuse to put in an effort, so said the queen." Inori is shocked. He thinks, "Is that what this is about?" before arguing, "But I'm not incompetent. Detection is a useful ability." She agrees with him but points out, "But it is also true that you are not putting in as much effort as others." She lectures him, saying, "As a bearer of a blessing, you ought to take your destiny seriously and give it your all." A flashback shows Inori fast asleep during her lesson while she looks on with a sigh. Inori thinks back on her words. He remembers his secret nightly training, killing the kecho. Clenching his fist, Inori insists, "But I am trying." He explains, "I'm doing the best I can. It doesn't look that way because I'm neither as powerful as those three, nor as talented in academics as you." The princess looks surprised, her face shadowed. She mumbles that the room is enchanted with barrier magic so no one can hear them. Inori, meanwhile, is trying to leave and wonders aloud how to open the door. The princess's eyes narrow with sudden, intense anger. She suddenly rushes forward and punches him with all her might. His face is smashed against the door as he lets out a pained grunt. They both look equally shocked. The princess shouts at him, "You are in a much better position than me, yet you refuse to elevate yourself." She continues her tirade, "If you get expelled from here, the fiends outside will kill you instantly. You must do whatever it takes to survive even if it brings shame." Inori rubs his sore cheek. He looks up, and her fierce demeanor is gone. He thinks to himself, the doll princess was no longer present in the room. In her place stood a tall, dignified woman. She yells, her eyes blazing, "You can become who you want to be if you just set your mind to it. Take control of your life." A small, fanged smile appears on Inori's face. He bursts out laughing hysterically, completely confusing the princess. He tells her she's a fine lady, which makes her blush and become flustered. With a genuine smile, he admits, "Looks like I underestimated you. I didn't expect you to be such a strong person," she pouts, asking if he's patronizing her. He reassures her, "Don't worry. I'm probably the one with the strongest sense of self-preservation among us." Just like you. His words hit their mark, leaving the princess stunned. She admits, "It appears that I was the one who underestimated you." She looks at him, sensing a powerful aura. "For some reason, you feel so much stronger than before." Inori thanks her for being honest with him, saying he needs to think of something now that he knows he's on the verge of being kicked out. He explains that he wanted to stay to continue gathering information. Later, at the training grounds, Inori is looking determined. He wanted to prove his blessing strength to avoid being exiled, but he was told there would be no dungeon training for a while. As the commander concludes the session, he's left without an opportunity. Breathing heavily from his training, he decides to talk to Knight Commander Esh. He approaches her, hoping to convince her to speak to the queen on his behalf. In her office, she tells him flatly that would be difficult. He asks her, a little desperately, do you think my ability is useless as well? He tries to defend himself, saying he knows it looks like he's slacking, but she cuts him off with a simple, no. I don't think your ability is useless, Inori. He looks up, shocked. She leans forward, her eyes intense. In fact, I would like you to join our knighthood. Inori is completely speechless. She explains that his skill will be invaluable in future scenarios like dungeon raids and battles against the demon lord. But she warns him that his words alone hold no power to convince the people, let alone the queen. She offers him a path forward, to work for the kingdom as a soldier, not as the weakest link of the heroes. And give the kingdom a reason to think twice about exiling you. In fact, Knight Commander Ariana looks at him with a serious, unwavering gaze. I would like you to join our knighthood. Inori thinks over the proposition. He knows that if he joins the knighthood, he'll be bound to this country. It's not an offer he can take lightly. He gives her his answer. I really appreciate the offer, but I need some time to think it over. Ariana accepts his answer but offers her support. Fair enough. But do come to me when you need someone to rely on. Inori can't help but wonder if she's offering help for after he gets exiled. She looks out the window, lost in thought for a moment. She finally replies with a simple, perhaps. A few days later. Inori is dozing off in the library again, his thoughts drifting. So, heroes from a neighboring nation are visiting the palace? The second princess, Aliyah, sips her tea and confirms, yes. We will host a celebration party for them. She adds that there will be no classes or training tomorrow. Inori sits up, annoyed. Why didn't anyone tell me about this until now? Aliyah gives him a perfectly sweet, passive-aggressive smile. Probably because they didn't feel the need to tell someone. Who sleeps during class? He slumps onto the desk with a huff, thinking, I see. I guess they don't want me there. A great celebration begins. Knights on horseback parade through the streets, holding banners and cheering. The palace is adorned with flags as crowds of knights gather. Inori watches the festivities from his window, looking less than thrilled. He thinks to himself, for a country that doesn't seem to be doing too well financially. They sure are going overboard with this celebration, he finishes, lying on his bed with his arms crossed. He considers crashing the party, but then thinks better of it, imagining the awkward explanations he'd have to give to foreign officials about being the extra summoned guy. He can just see them forming an investigation party to figure out why he was summoned as a fourth wheel. He flops back onto his bed. Ugh, that would be so annoying. He sits up with a sigh. Ha! I don't like peeping on partygoers, but here we go. He activates his demon eye of vision, and his sight zooms across the palace into the ballroom. He sees the two princesses in beautiful dresses and can't help but notice, wow. Either it's new or it's a dress I haven't seen. He focuses on Aliyah, who is laughing politely. Her smile still looks fake, though, he thinks. His eyes wander to the lavish feast laid out on the tables. Back in his room, his stomach lets out a loud growl. His eyes glow as he thinks back to his conversation with the hypnotized maid, Nala. Geez, Nala wasn't lying. He remembers her telling him that the queen's obsession with showing off her splendor is a major cause of the kingdom's financial crisis, and that she completely ignores the king. His attention is drawn back to the party as he spots something interesting. Oh ho! He sees Ryuto and the girls talking to a new group of 3 heroes. The one standing next to Ryuto must be the heroes of the neighboring nation. He notes with interest that they also came in a group of 3. He sizes up one of the new heroes, a dark-haired boy. This dude looks quite withdrawn and self-absorbed. That's someone I can get along with. His gaze shifts to another one of the heroes. And the third one looks unique. This one has spiky blonde hair. Inori wonders if he's also Japanese and decides to use his identify skill to find out. His name is Masayoshi Date. Inori thinks the name sounds vintage and very hero-like. He then notices Masayoshi is yelling at Ryuto and uses his lip-reading ability to figure out what he's saying. Masayoshi is shouting, "Bring Inori Takafuji to me, now! I challenge him to a duel." Princess Aaliyah formally announces Inori's arrival to the gathered heroes. Ryuto, Tamaki, and Aoi all look on with concerned expressions. The two other heroes from the neighboring nation look equally worried. Inori explains that he was called after the party ended. The blonde hero, Masayoshi Date, points at him and repeats his challenge from the party, "I challenge you to a duel." Everyone in the room, including Princess Aaliyah, looks completely shocked by the sudden declaration. Ryuto's group is speechless. The other visiting heroes look annoyed and confused. Inori, looking completely unfazed, asks, why a duel of all things?" Masayoshi yells with passionate fury, to prove to the goddess that you are not worthy of her love. Inori looks genuinely confused, putting a hand to his chin. "The goddess?" he asks, as if he has no idea what he's talking about. Masayoshi shouts back, "Don't play dumb with me." In a flashback, Masayoshi explains, "I know you were called to that white space. And you met her there." He remembers his own first meeting with the beautiful goddess in the void. Inori asks what that has to do with him. Masayoshi blushes and admits, "I proposed to her." Inori is stunned into silence. Clenching his fist, Masayoshi grabs Inori by the shirt and shouts, "And to that," she answered, "defeat Inori Takafuji and I'll think about it." As Masayoshi holds him, Inori closes his eyes and puts the pieces together. "Ah. I see what she's up to," he thinks. "So basically, she's expecting me to handle her problem." He imagines the goddess winking at him and gets furious. "I swear, she's irresponsible as hell. Ugh. I'm going to make her pay when I see her next time." Ryuto looks over, completely lost, asking, "White space?" The other hero asks, "The goddess," clearly having no idea what they are talking about. Inori realizes the other heroes must have been summoned differently and don't know about the goddess. He decides to play dumb for now to avoid a complicated explanation. Inori looks Masayoshi in the eye and says, "I have no idea what you're on about, but I accept." Masayoshi is surprised by his quick agreement. A huge, delighted grin spreads across Masayoshi's face. "Awesome," he exclaims. Inori cuts him off, saying, "Now, let us decide." The format of this duel, Masayoshi is shocked. Inori explains that if they fight one-on-one, Masayoshi will win too easily because, unlike the other heroes, he doesn't have a superhuman body or a combat-focused blessing. He throws his hands up in a dramatic shrug. "You weren't seriously thinking of bullying an underdog who's clearly at a massive disadvantage, were you? If that's the case, shame on you." Masayoshi falls for it completely. "Of course not," he yells. "I'll prove it by accepting any challenge you throw at me." All the other heroes are stunned, thinking, "That worked?" Inori lays out his terms. He points to a nearby dungeon and suggests a race to see who can defeat the first floor boss first. Masayoshi, full of pride, immediately accepts. Ryuto whispers to Inori, concerned. He knows Inori's detection skill will help him navigate, but it won't help him beat the boss. Inori just gives him a sly smile. "Don't worry. I have a plan." And so, they decided to duel the next day. The next day. After the duel, Inori kneels on a red carpet in the throne room. The queen looks down at him and says, "So you are Inori?" She demands, "Explain yourself. You changed the rule of the duel. Yet you were utterly pulverized." Inori thinks back on what happened, admitting to himself that pulverized was definitely the right word. Masayoshi was a force of nature. He recalls how Masayoshi slaughtered the monsters with swordsmanship that was on par with Knight Commanderesh's. When he faced the giant, one-eyed boss of the first floor, it was obvious that the boss didn't stand a chance. Masayoshi defeated it with ease. Inori, on the other hand, used detection to completely sneak past all the enemies, traps, and even the boss to reach the exit first. He admits to himself, objectively, the duel ended in my crushing defeat. The queen continues to scold him, "I have looked past your laziness and shortcomings. Because our trusted knight commander believed in your potential. But today, you brought harm to our kingdom. With your abysmal performance." With a look of pure contempt, she says, "And that I can never forgive." Princess Aaliyah remains silent, her expression unreadable. The queen points a finger at him and declares, "Inori Takafuji, I hereby banish you from our kingdom." Inori, however, just looks back at her with a knowing smirk. The queen stands on her throne, looking down at Inori with disdain. "But today, you brought harm to our kingdom. With your abysmal performance." She points a finger, her voice booming with rage. "Inori Takafuji, I hereby banish you from our kingdom." In the background, the first princess smirks, while the second princess and the other heroes look on with concern. Inori just looks up with a calm, almost challenging smirk. The queen shouts, "Do you object?" Inori calmly replies, "I do, Your Majesty." The queen is taken aback, sputtering, "What?" He looks her straight in the eye and asks, "I wish to know how I brought harm to the kingdom." She scoffs, running a finger along her scepter. "By losing a duel, that's how. Is it not obvious?" Inori begins his counter-argument, "Your Majesty." He admits that it's true Masayoshi was a powerful opponent, and that he easily defeated the dungeon boss. He concedes, "It is true that I have lost this race. But the wager of this duel was worth," he says with a smile. The queen is completely confused. "What?" she exclaims. Inori explains, with a flowery image of the goddess in his mind, "It was only a battle to decide who was worthy of a lady's courtship." He continues, laying out his points. In addition, a promise was made to keep the duel a secret from the uninvolved. Lastly, I am not a hero, but an ordinary person, whose presence has not yet been revealed to other nations. He concludes, I have neither the power nor the influence to bring dishonor to the kingdom of the rising sun and the throne. The king and Princess Aaliyah listen intently. He bows his head. Your Majesty, the duel was merely a silly game. The queen is left speechless. He's not done yet. But while I was in the dungeon, he says, I explored its corridors and corners. The queen looks at him, puzzled. Inori stands up, and behind him, guards bring in several heavy sacks. And manage to acquire a small prize. He finishes with a flourish. The guards empty the sacks, and a mountain of gold coins and jewels spills onto the floor, shocking the queen and the first princess. He explains, these are treasures from the first floor, Your Majesty. I could not devise a plan to defeat the hero in the race, so instead, I prepared a humble gift for the crown. The queen picks up a gold coin, a greedy glint in her eye. Inori explains with a smug look, I located them effortlessly, using my blessing, detection. He finishes his masterstroke, I used this duel to prove my worth. Princess Aaliyah is utterly stunned by his cleverness. And just like that, the problem was solved. Masayoshi went home happy, and the case was closed. Now with his place in the castle secured, Inori is back to his nightly routine of hunting in the forest, though he's getting a bit tired of eating the same bird monster. As he walks through the woods, he gets a strange feeling. This again, he thinks, annoyed. I swear, this forest messes with my sense of direction from time to time. He notes how confusing it is with all the trees, and how even with detection, he feels like something is off. Suddenly, an idea strikes him. Wait. What if I use a different skill? He activates his other eye, demon eye of vision, true sight. A smile spreads across his face. Bingo! He sees it now, a massive, shimmering illusionary dome covering a part of the forest. He realizes this is why detection didn't work, since it's a skill from this world and likely blocked by the local magic. His demon eye of vision, however, is from a different world, allowing him to see through it. He peers into the illusion, wondering if there are fiends stronger than Kechos inside. He decides to take a look, figuring he can always teleport out if things get dangerous. Inside, he sees a pack of large, wolf-like creatures with glowing blue auras and eyes. The alpha wolf's eye glows intensely in the darkness. It bears a mouthful of sharp, drooling teeth. Inori, covered in blood, cautiously steps through the illusionary barrier. He looks around, startled by what he sees. A pack of vicious-looking white wolves with glowing blue eyes comes rushing out of the tall grass, right for him. He's surprised, thinking, gray wolves? It's my first time seeing fiends who move in a pack. He immediately unleashes his umbral web, sending countless dark purple threads out to ensnare the attacking pack. The threads fly through the air under the full moon. Inori wipes blood from his mouth, clearly having taken some damage. The entire pack of wolves lies tangled and defeated in his webs. He notes that even one would have been a challenge, and he couldn't have beaten a whole team without getting hurt. But, he figures they'll give him a lot of experience points. With a hungry look in his eyes, he says, it's time to dig in. After his meal, he finds himself in a strange, open area with a massive, ancient-looking tree by a pool of water. He stands before the tree, an uneasy feeling creeping up on him. Why am I getting this feeling that a boss will pop out, he wonders. He tries to laugh it off, thinking it's not a video game. But just then, a colossal wolf with glowing blue fur and eyes bursts from the woods, roaring as it lunges at him. The wolf's jaws clamp down on him with a sickening crunch. Inori looks on in sheer terror. He's sent flying as the massive beast slams him into the ground. He screams in agony as he crashes into the dirt. Battered and bloody, he struggles to understand what just happened. Before him stands the giant wolf, identified by a system pop-up as Fenrir, wolf-type mythical beast, white wolf. Inori is in disbelief. Mythical beast? So that thing's not a fiend, he thinks. Usually those kinds of creatures appear as mini-bosses. He quickly considers his escape options, wondering if he can run through his shadow. But before he can act, Fenrir unleashes a beam of pure energy from its mouth. The attack is so fast, Inori can only stare in shock. The beam smashes into the tree Inori was hiding behind, completely obliterating it. The wolf seems surprised that it missed its target. Inori is now hovering in the night sky, having sprouted a pair of demonic, bat-like wings to dodge the attack. He thinks back to his third summoning, where he was mistaken for a monster. And I thought I wouldn't use this vampiric ability anytime soon, he muses. I couldn't be more wrong. To his surprise, Fenrir speaks, its voice booming. You. Why did you come here? Inori is shocked that it can talk but lands on a cliff, trying to play it cool. I guess my answer to that would be because I got lost in the woods. Fenrir isn't buying it. Nonsense, it roars. You breached the illusion spell and entered this domain directly. Inori admits he was just curious, adding that illusions usually protect something special. The wolf's eye glows with fury. It accuses him of trespassing and killing its kin, declaring that he will not leave this domain alive. Inori, still hovering in the air with his wings, just smirks down at the giant beast. You know, the more you talk, the more I'm convinced that this is a place of importance. Hovering on his newfound vampire wings, Inori taunts the giant mythical wolf, Fenrir. You know, the more you talk, the more I'm convinced that this is a place of importance. Fenrir's voice booms, I shall gift you the knowledge of these grounds since you will soon perish. Despite being battered and bloody, Inori gets a thrilled look on his face, thinking, awesome, looks like someone enjoys a good villain monologue. Fenrir explains, we formed a covenant with the witch on these grounds. Inori looks confused, asking, the witch, that name sounds familiar. Fenrir continues, explaining that they have guarded these sacred grounds as promised, culling fiends and trespassers like you who could pose a threat to these lands. It finishes, glaring at Inori. Fenrir offers him a deal, stand still for a quick death, or resist and it'll destroy his left arm. It stops mid-threat, clearly shocked. Inori's mangled arm blows and heals right before Fenrir's eyes. Even Inori is surprised, realizing his vampiric regeneration is more off than he thought. Fenrir is furious. I see that you are no ordinary human. That gives me yet another reason to crush you here and now, it roars, lunging forward with incredible speed. Inori grits his teeth, his eyes glowing as he prepares to dodge. The massive wolf smashes into the ground with a powerful impact. Inori pants, thinking that while his demon eye lets him predict the attacks, this is still going to be a tough fight to escape. He swoops down, expertly dodging one of the wolf's lunges with his wings. He realizes he can't fly very high yet, so his plan is to keep dodging and look for a chance to escape through the forest below. But Fenrir isn't making it easy, firing a barrage of blue energy blasts. Inori gets caught in the crossfire. The attacks are relentless, hammering the ground around him. One of the blasts grazes him, and he winces in pain. He's knocked to the ground and looks up in alarm as another attack comes right for him. A massive explosion erupts where he was just a second ago. Lying on the ground, beaten and bruised, he thinks, ugh, he's too frigging aggressive. I can't find an opening to use the hypnosis magic. What should I do? He spots a waterfall in the distance, and an idea begins to form. But he doesn't have time to think as another, even stronger blast comes his way. He tries to fly away but gets caught in the attack, screaming in agony. Fenrir smirks, sensing victory. It lunges at the fallen Inori, roaring, "Dai!" But Inori isn't done yet. A manic grin spreads across his face as his hands become enveloped in shadows. He plunges his hand into the ground, which ripples like dark water. Suddenly, a massive wall of sharpened logs erupts from the ground, blocking Fenrir's path. The giant wolf nimbly dodges the unexpected obstacle. Fenrir is shocked, wondering what just happened. Inori, now protected, thinks to himself, I'm glad I stored these in my shadow dimension just in case, but he knows he's not out of the woods yet. Fenrir looks absolutely furious, its eyes glowing with rage. Fenrir, the mythical beast, glares down with eyes blazing with blue fire, its teeth bared in a furious snarl. The giant wolf stands behind the wall of sharpened logs, its immense power radiating off it in waves. Inori thinks to himself, I wish I could run away using the teleportation skill. But my demon eye of magic circles is currently loaded with hypnosis magic, he laments, remembering his fight with the wolf pack. He knows he needs to load a different magic circle into his eye to change its effect, and for that, I need to buy some time, he concludes, as dark, shadowy weapons begin to form from the ground at his command. Fenrir watches, unimpressed, as Inori prepares his attack. Let's see if I can catch an opening, Inori thinks, unleashing a barrage of shadowy blades. The blades clink harmlessly against Fenrir's glowing hide. The wolf thinks, so this is your next move, while Inori looks on in shock. He grits his teeth in frustration. Its hide is blocking all of my attacks. Fenrir effortlessly bats away the blades, mocking him. A futile attempt. You cannot damage me with such weak attacks. Inori desperately tries to fend off the wolf's counterattack, but he's completely outmatched. As one of Fenrir's claws barely misses him, he has a realization, I don't have to dodge everything. I only need to protect my legs to run and my heart to stay alive, he thinks, his survival instincts kicking in. Fenrir looms over Inori's shadowy form. The wolf is impressed. How tenacious. Suddenly, Inori unleashes his umbral web again, this time trapping Fenrir completely. The wolf is surprised by the sudden move. The web tightens around Fenrir, who lets out a pained screech. Inori sees his chance, thinking, this is it. The trees used as anchors for the web begin to crack under the strain. But Fenrir roars, you cannot hurt me with such a fragile web, and shatters the threads with a burst of pure energy. Inori is stunned. It broke free, he thinks in a panic. He realizes he's out of options and has to resort to his last-ditch plan. He dodges a relentless barrage of energy blasts, his body already pushed to its limit. Using his dark threads, he swings through the trees, narrowly escaping Fenrir's snapping jaws. This has to work, he thinks, putting his plan into action. He uses his threads to swing high up into the trees, leaving a complex web in his wake. Fenrir looks up, confused by his opponent's retreat. Fenrir mocks him, you have turned yourself into an open target, as Inori hangs vulnerable in the air. But Inori's yellow eye glows, a new magic circle now loaded and ready. The threads he left behind weren't a trap, but the framework for a massive, glowing magic circle woven between the trees. The magic circle on the ground activates, trapping Fenrir in a cage of light. Inori, now safely perched on a branch, looks down with a victorious grin. He shouts, his plan having worked perfectly, demon eye of magic circles, locked and reloaded. Inori stands in the forest, a crazed grin on his face as his yellow eye glows with power. He shouts, demon eye of magic circles, locked and reloaded. He activates the teleport magic circle he just loaded into his eye. Fenrir, the giant wolf, is shocked, thinking, this filth. You would flee from me? As the teleportation circle envelopes him, Inori smirks down at the enraged mythical beast. Yep. But it won't be nice of me to leave. Without saying goodbye, he finishes, his eyes glowing as he reveals his true plan. In a shocking twist, Inori teleports right in front of Fenrir's face and stabs it directly in the eye. The massive wolf lets out a deafening howl of agony. Inori, now standing on the ground, thinks to himself, I hate just being on the receiving end. Fenrir, now with a bleeding eye socket, is absolutely furious. You worm! You dare attack me in the eye, it roars. Inori quickly dodges a massive swipe from the enraged beast. He smirks, a dark aura surrounding him. Phew, looks like I really pissed the doggo off by attacking its eyes, he thinks. He leans against a tree, catching his breath as the blinded wolf stumbles. He wonders, wait, is it looking at me? Fenrir sniffs the air, its other eye glowing with rage. Inori realizes, no, it must be tracking me with its nose. He smirks, a bead of sweat running down his face. Geez, it really wants me dead. Fenrir lunges, its massive maw wide open, ready to swallow him whole. Inori, surrounded by a golden aura, thinks it's time to make his exit. But in another brilliant move, he activates the teleportation circle right on Fenrir's face as it's about to bite down. The giant wolf howls in surprise as it's whisked away by the magic. Fenrir's last thought is one of frustration, he escaped. The wolf roars in the empty void of the rift, vowing to kill Inori the next time it sees him. Back in his room, Inori collapses onto his bed, exhausted and covered in blood. He pants, admitting to himself, the best I could do was hurt it. He clenches his fist, a determined look on his face. Next time. I'll win, he vows, gazing out at the castle. From that day on, he started preparing for his rematch, tweaking his loadouts. First, he used his shadow shift to infiltrate one of the palace armories. Next, he looked around and gathered metals and other items he could use as materials for crafting. He also examined a tuft of Fenrir's fur that he'd managed to collect during the fight. He noted how hard it was and decided to use his identify skill on it. He infuses the fur with mana, causing it to glow purple. He discovers that it hardens in response to mana. I can see why my attacks didn't go through, he thinks. That thing was covered in such fur. Now, it was time to get creative. Let's see what weapon I can make out of these, he thinks, activating his craft weapon skill. He creates a new item, a set of incredibly thin, unbreakable strings that crystallize when infused with mana. He names it Gleipnir. He remembers that Gleipnir was the magical shackle used to restrain Fenrir in Norse mythology. Awesome, he thinks. That creature shouldn't be able to break this, right? But he doesn't stop there. He decides to see what else he can make with his new super strong string. He crafts a sleek black glove called the Glove of Utter Darkness, woven from black silk and Gleipnir, which he can harden and crystallize with mana. He cleverly tweaked the crystallization to only make a small part of it glow, revealing a perfect magic circle on the back of his hand. He thinks, I can see the magic circle very clearly. He wonders if he can make a complete set. And so he does. He crafts himself a sharp, tailored black suit with matching boots, gloves, and a fancy brooch. Surrounded by a dark purple aura, his eyes glowing with power, he grins menacingly. Excellent. Now, it's time for revenge. Inori teleports back into the sacred grounds, landing with a dramatic explosion of light. Fenrir, the giant wolf, is startled by his sudden reappearance. Now dressed in his sharp new suit, Inori stands confidently before the massive beast, a golden aura flaring around him. "Sup," he says casually, adding with a smirk, "had a good night's sleep?" Fenrir is not amused. "How bold of you," it growls. "To set your foot in this land yet again." It lets out a furious roar, its blue aura flaring. Inori just smirks, unimpressed. "You look cooler without those pupils," he taunts, referring to the eye he stabbed. Fenrir roars, silence, and blasts him with a powerful beam of energy, sending him flying. As he's knocked back, Inori is impressed, thinking, how can one be this accurate even in blindness? Fenrir's rage is palpable. "Twice you have trespassed on this domain. I shall destroy you permanently this time." Inori analyzes the beast's anger, realizing it's more about the trespassing than the injury. What a dedicated wolf, he thinks with a strange admiration. His expression turns dark and excited. Such devotion. I love it. I love it so much that I can't wait to kill it, he thinks, his eyes glowing with sadistic glee. Fenrir lets out another enraged roar. Inori reaches into his shadow, a sinister smile on his face. He summons his new familiars, the shadowy, demonic remains of the wolf pack he killed earlier. Fenrir is horrified to see its kin resurrected as undead puppets. The shadow wolves immediately leap onto Fenrir, biting and clawing at it. Fenrir is completely stunned, asking, "What are these creatures?" Inori taunts it, "Smell them. You have a good nose, don't you?" He continues, "I'm sure they still have the scent of your kin." Fenrir is enraged, demanding to know what he's done. With a casual shrug, Inori replies, "Well, they seemed quite useful. So I turned them into my familiars." Fenrir lets out a pained whimper and easily tears the shadow creatures apart. The shockwave sends Inori flying, but he lands on his feet. He grins, noting that while his suit isn't damage-proof, it definitely bought him some time. He rushes in, landing a powerful punch on Fenrir's snout with his new glove. He follows up with another direct hit. His familiars reform and continue their relentless assault. As his shadow dogs are destroyed again, Fenrir roars that it will avenge its kin. Inori sees his chance and prepares to teleport. He teleports just as Fenrir lunges, causing it to smash face-first into a tree. Fenrir thinks he's run away again, but then spots the teleportation circle appearing high above it. Fenrir stomps the ground in frustration. It launches a barrage of rocks at the airborne Inori, who just smirks, thinking, "Ran away?" Nah. It's the opposite, actually. Inori's trap is sprung. The invisible Gleipnir strings he'd set up earlier activate, wrapping around Fenrir and trapping it completely. His familiars reform, ready to attack again, while Fenrir realizes the trap is made from its own fur. Inori stands amidst the web of glowing threads, a look of triumph on his face. "I made a string using your fur. You can't escape me now," he declares. Inori stands in the forest, surrounded by the glowing purple threads of his Gleipnir. He tells the giant wolf Fenrir, "I made a string using your fur. You can't escape me now," he declares. Fenrir is trapped, roaring in fury and confusion, asking what he did. Inori commands his newly crafted weapon, "Now, shrink." Gleipnir. He pours his dark energy into the threads, causing them to constrict around the massive beast. Fenrir howls in pain as the strings dig into its magical hide. The Gleipnir tightens, bringing the giant mythical beast crashing to the ground. Inori recaps his flawless victory. The plan was perfect. He teleported, stabbed Fenrir in the eye, distracted it with his familiars, and then sprang his Gleipnir trap. After casually dispatching the bound wolf, he says, "Adios, Fenrir." He then turns to his familiars and commands them to feast, only to find they've been destroyed again. Looking at the moon, he remarks on how much time has passed. He wipes blood from his face, a result of Fenrir's final struggle. Standing over Fenrir's corpse, he notes, "I gained 5 levels. Plus some skills through that fight." He checks his status and is surprised by a new addition. He's gained a unique skill called King's Vessel. What's this, he wonders. Suddenly, one of his shadow wolf familiars speaks to him, calling him master. Inori is shocked that they can talk now. The familiar explains that they suddenly gained the ability. He wonders if this is one of the benefits of his new king's vessel skill. He then asks the familiar why it called him, wondering if familiars are classified as followers. The familiar has a request. It wants him to transform their previous master, Fenrir, into his familiar. Inori is taken aback by the idea. The Shadow Wolves explain that Fenrir fought not just to protect the sacred lands, but to protect them as well. They ask him to fulfill their request so they can be reunited. Inori considers it for a moment, then agrees. The familiars thank him gratefully. He sighs, figuring he has nothing to lose by doing it. Standing over the massive corpse, he thinks to himself, but man, I'm beat. Later, at a fancy dinner with the other heroes, Inori seems deep in thought. He thinks, so, I've been thinking. Ryuto is talking to Tamaki and Aoi, saying, the first princess and the second princess. They don't seem to be on good terms. Tamaki muses that maybe the second princess is just being herself and pushing her sister away. Aoi smiles sweetly but says she's not sure. Inori explains to them that he doesn't think they hate each other, because he's noticed the first princess occasionally glancing at her sister. He's then disgusted to find garlic in his food. Ryuto then gets an idea and asks Inori to look into the princess's relationship. Inori is annoyed. Why me, he asks. He argues that Tamaki and Aoi would be better suited for the task since they actually know how to talk to girls. But Ryuto has a good point. Inori is closer to the second princess since he's in her class. He suggests that Inori chat with the first princess and try to repair their relationship. Inori complains that the snobby first princess would never talk to him, but Ryuto waves it off, saying he can arrange it. Inori is skeptical. How are you so sure? Ryuto grins, leaning in conspiratorially. The first princess is totally into me, he says with a smug, confident look. The girls are shocked. Aoi admits she never would have guessed, calling it an unexpected twist. Ryuto offers to get Inori a day off each week in exchange for his help. Inori immediately agrees, shouting, "Deal!" Later, knocking on the first princess's door, Inori has second thoughts, wondering if this will even work. The princess opens the door with her arms crossed, looking annoyed. Ryuto told me to expect you. You may enter, peasant. Inori is already over it. Ugh, what an unpleasant start, he thinks. I wanna go home. She grants him the privilege of a chat with her and tells him to consider it an honor. Inori looks around her gaudy room, noting the inconsistent decorations. The princess asks if her treasures astonish him. He ignores her and asks if all the items were tailored to her preferences, pointing to a particularly tacky bird statue. She scoffs, saying they're gifts and that a royal would never purchase goods directly. She calls him uneducated for not knowing that. Inori decides to get to the point, saying he wants to talk about her sister. He mentions the rumor that she's agonizing over their relationship, which the princess vehemently denies. Inori gives up, thinking it's like talking to a wall. The first princess, Amanda, furiously denies that she's agonizing over her relationship with her sister. Inori explains, but I was asked to mend your relationship with her. Amanda is flustered, stammering, and asking why she would ever want to do that. Inori presses her, so you don't want things to improve? She turns away, puffing out her chest. This matter is beyond you, peasant. Inori thinks, great. This isn't going anywhere. I have no choice but to use that strategy now. He changes his tune. But I'm here. Because Ryuto told me to assist you with it, he adds that Ryuto would be sad if she refused, since he orchestrated the whole thing. Amanda's tough exterior immediately cracks. She quickly backpedals, stammering that she was just about to tell him the details. Inori can't believe it actually worked. Amanda begins to open up, explaining that she and her sister used to be much closer. When we were young, she finishes, looking sad. A flashback shows a young Aaliyah brushing a happy, younger Amanda's hair. Amanda recalls how brilliant and pleasant her sister was to play with, remembering a time they created cute magical creatures together. I followed her everywhere because of that, she says, remembering how she used to trail after her older sister. But after a certain point, her sister distanced herself from her. Amanda explains that when she turned 7, she was given the title of first princess and the right of succession. Aaliyah was pushed into the background, becoming a shadow behind her. In addition, she learned that Aaliyah was not related to her mother by blood. Since then, our relationship has been like this, she concludes sadly. She admits that it was only during her rigid succession lessons that she realized what a talented and caring person the second princess, no, my sister, was. She looks out the window wistfully. I still wonder how nice it would be if she was on my side, even now. But she knew it was impossible, as the adults around them drove them further apart. She finishes her story, and Inori sits in thoughtful silence. He now understands the real first princess and realizes her attitude is a product of her upbringing. He also realizes that the inconsistent theme of her possessions might be a sign that she lacks a sense of self. He thinks, put simply, everything, including her identity, has been given to her. She can reaffirm her purpose only by acting all high and mighty behind her status, he concludes. Amanda breaks the silence, asking why he's so quiet and demanding his advice. Inori, however, is having other thoughts. He thinks, actually, maybe she's born proud. He decides to give her some direct advice. Then why don't you say something like this to her, I will address you as my sister henceforth, it fits your character. She's horrified at the thought, worrying about the gossip from the maids and retainers. Inori gives her a sly look. Ha! Are the palace workers of this kingdom higher in the pecking order than the first princess? Your Highness, shouldn't you be the one who makes your own decisions in the end? His words leave her speechless. She hesitates, saying that if she does that, she'll be burdening her sister with her words. Inori leans back on the chair and tells her, the second princess is not as weak as you think. Amanda looks at him, considering his words. Finally, she agrees, telling him to consider it an honor that she's taking his advice. As he leaves, he just mutters, yeah. Back in his room, he explains the situation to the maid, Nala. She's not thrilled about the task but agrees to relay his story to the second princess. He thinks to himself, she doesn't seem to like it. I guess it can't be helped since she's the second princess's maid. The next day, Nala wakes him up with a message from the princess, who has scheduled a special lesson for him. Inori is immediately suspicious. Dang. I have a bad feeling about this, he thinks. The next day, Princess Aaliyah is leading Inori and her maid Nala through the busy capital city, telling him to hurry up. He narrates, I am currently walking on a street in the capital, led by the two ladies. Inori looks completely bored, asking, what kind of lesson are we having out here? Aaliyah explains that today he'll learn about the prices of goods, the vibe of the city, and their society by accompanying her as she shops. He asks what she's planning to buy. She tells him she's leaning towards an accessory, gesturing to a display of beautiful jewelry. Inori thinks back to what the first princess said about royals not purchasing goods directly and wonders if the same applies to Aaliyah. Aaliyah blushes, looking flustered as she considers the items. She turns to him and asks, Inori, which one do you think is prettier? He gives a non-committal answer, saying he thinks both would suit her wonderfully. She clarifies, a bit shyly, that she won't be the one wearing it. Inori is confused. Nala whispers to him that they're buying a gift for the first princess. She explains that after she relayed Inori's message, the second princess got the idea for the shopping trip. Inori processes this, then asks Aaliyah why she's asking for his opinion. She's silent for a moment. She explains that since he chatted with her sister, he would know more about her preferences. He tells her they didn't talk for long and that he couldn't figure out her likes. He adds that since she's used to receiving gifts, it probably doesn't matter what she's given. Aaliyah looks hurt, asking if he's saying her gift will be meaningless. Inori starts to backpedal. He clarifies, I think this one is about who, not what. He tells her that her sister will appreciate anything as long as it's something she picked. Nala smiles, thinking it's a nice thing to say. Inori, on the other hand, is just tired and wants to go back to the palace to sleep. Aaliyah blushes and thanks him for the advice. Nala tells him that the princess wouldn't have thought of buying a gift if he hadn't told her about his meeting with her sister. She adds that it brings her great joy to see the princess smile again. Suddenly, the first princess, Amanda, appears, asking if they're having a private discussion. Nala and Aaliyah are startled. Amanda then suggests they find a place to eat, offering to treat them all to lunch. 5 days later, a lavish feast is laid out. Inori, dressed in his fine suit, narrates that he received a special invitation to the first princess's birthday party. He observes the luxurious food and the powerful attendees. The nobles applaud as the royal family makes their entrance. Ryuto approaches the birthday girl, wishing her a happy birthday and complimenting her beauty. Amanda blushes and thanks him. Inori watches from a distance, thinking it's a lovely sight. He then notices something else. He wonders who the man talking to Knight Commander Esh is, noting he has a different vibe. He's identified as Chancellor Vitre. Inori figures they're just talking about boring security stuff and dismisses it as none of his business. He scans the room, wondering where Aaliyah is. He spots her hiding nervously behind a pillar. He thinks to himself, why is she so nervous? Come on, all you have to do is talk to your sister. It ain't a big deal. He then sees that she's biding her time because Amanda and Ryuto are deep in conversation. But his desire for that extra day off wins out over his patience. He approaches Aaliyah, who is surprised to see him. She panics, asking him what she should do and how she should enter the conversation. He smirks, consider this a payback for kicking me that time. She's confused. He tells her it's time to channel her inner fighter again and gives her a hard shove right into her sister, sending her flying and causing a huge scene. The party guests are shocked by the commotion. Inori just leans against a pillar, watching the drama unfold. The two sisters are left blushing and flustered as they stare at each other, Aaliyah holding a small gift box behind her back. The two princesses, Amanda and Aaliyah, stand facing each other in the middle of the grand ballroom, both blushing and looking incredibly nervous. The party has come to a standstill as everyone watches them. The crowd of nobles begins to clamor and murmur amongst themselves. Inori watches the scene unfold, a sweat drop on his temple. What a reaction, he thinks, completely unimpressed. Can't two sisters just face each other? He mentally prods Aaliyah, now, do your thing and give it to her. Don't let my effort be in vain. Aaliyah nervously holds out a small green gift box. Happy birthday, Your Highness, she says. She's blushing furiously as she explains, I have brought you a gift. To celebrate this occasion. Amanda looks just as flustered as she hesitantly reaches for the gift. She clicks the box open. Inside is a beautiful hair accessory. Amanda looks at it, then to Aaliyah, and eagerly says, give me a hand. I want to wear this right now. Aaliyah is completely taken aback by her sister's enthusiastic reaction. Amanda insists, pleading, it's a request. Gently, Aaliyah puts the sparkling accessory into Amanda's hair. Amanda turns around shyly, asking, how do I look? Aaliyah gives her a warm, genuine smile. The accessory suits you very well, Your Highness. Amanda's face lights up with pure joy. She shouts, thank you, and lets out a happy little cheer. The other heroes, Ryuto, Aoi, and Tamaki, start clapping for the heartwarming scene. The rest of the party guests join in the applause. Amanda, still blushing happily, looks at Aaliyah and timidly says, I also want another gift. She looks down, then back up at Aaliyah, and asks, let me call you sister. Aaliyah's eyes go wide with shock and emotion. Amanda asks nervously, is it too much to ask? Aaliyah's eyes fill with tears, remembering their happy childhood. With tears of joy streaming down her face, Aaliyah replies, not at all, Your Highness. I am overjoyed to hear it. Amanda cries out, sister. The two princesses embrace in a heartfelt, tearful hug. They both cry, finally reunited after years of distance. Inori watches the scene, thinking, I guess that worked out well. He then notices the sound of clapping. Even the king and queen are moved to tears by the sight. The queen says, what a beautiful sight. Well done, Amanda. Ryuto throws an arm around Inori, praising him for a job well done. Inori, looking unimpressed as usual, tells him, you owe me big, Ryuto. I expect something good in return since I did all the work. Ryuto laughs and agrees, admitting Inori really hit a home run with this one. The two sisters are all smiles, and Aaliyah tells Amanda how glad she is they made up. Ryuto also expresses his happiness for them. Inori watches him, thinking, what a nice guy. A character befitting of the title of a hero. He starts to walk away, and when Ryuto asks where he's going, he says he's just getting some fresh air. He goes out onto a balcony, where Aaliyah is waiting for him. She calls out his name. She smiles warmly, saying, I came here to to talk with you. He tells her to go ahead and say what's on her mind, since they're alone. She smiles, I see you use detection. What a useful gift that is. He teases her, so you were capable of expressing yourself. She gets flustered and retorts, oh, quiet you. I am actually more expressive than you most of the time. A flashback shows a wine glass shattering, symbolizing how the kingdom sees Aaliyah as a pretty but emotionless doll. And another flashback to Inori's sudden, jarring laughter, which had shocked her. Inori's sudden, maniacal laughter echoes through the hall, leaving Princess Aaliyah completely stunned and confused. Suddenly, a commotion from the party hall makes them both dash to see what's happening. Inori grabs a terrified Aaliyah, shouting, don't! Chaos has erupted. A dark, bloody substance engulfs the queen, and the king is also attacked. The crowd screams in terror as Chancellor Victory bellows, silence, vermin! He gives a rousing speech to his rebel soldiers, declaring that the incompetent, avaricious queen wasted the kingdom's treasures for her own pleasure. The king and queen lie slain on their thrones, covered in blood. But now, Victory proclaims, the tyrant and her enabling consort are dead. He sits himself on the throne, declaring, as one with royal blood, I, Victory, will sit on the throne as its new king. With Igiana Esh by my side as the queen, Knight Commander Ariana stands beside him, her expression cold and resolute. Inori and Aaliyah watch in horror from their hiding spot. Inori thinks, Knight Commander, while Aaliyah can only gasp. Aaliyah rushes to her sister's side, who is kneeling over her mother's body. Amanda's grief turns to pure rage. Looking at her dead mother, she screams, you will pay for this with your blood, Victory, as a massive wave of pink magical energy erupts from her body. She gathers the energy, preparing to unleash a devastating attack on the usurper. But in a flash, Ariana appears, her sword swinging in a deadly arc to intercept the princess. Ariana severs Amanda's hand, and the young princess collapses to the floor, screaming in agony. Her golden gauntlet clatters to the ground. The other heroes cry out her name in terror. Ariana stands over the wounded princess, telling Ryuto to stand down and warning him that he and the others will face a painful death if they fight. Victory bellows, we are the scions of the witch. We are her people. Aaliyah explains that a sorceress who abandoned the witch's will and foolishly summoned heroes can only pay for her heinous crime with death, she declares, tears streaming down her face. Amanda, bleeding on the floor, weakly calls out to her sister. With a cold, determined look, Ariana raises her sword and brings it down on the fallen princess. Victory screams, oh great witch, we send her to your side. Aaliyah lets out a horrified scream. Inori shouts, no. He tries to run to help, calling Amanda's name, but it's too late. Ariana stands over the now lifeless body of the princess. He quickly grabs a hysterical Aaliyah, covering her mouth and warning her to be quiet or they'll be next. Inori assesses the situation, a full-blown insurrection. He notes how well they've staged it. Victory orders his men to punish the fallen queen, and the nobles erupt into chaos as a fight breaks out. The chancellor is brutally stabbed from behind by one of the rebel guards. As he dies, he lists the crimes of the conspirators who corrupted the nation. With his last breath, he declares that they must die for their sins. Inori shakes a traumatized Aaliyah, telling her to get a grip. He lays out her only two choices: go out there and die, or flee and survive. Amidst the chaos of the coup, Inori holds a terrified, tear-stricken Princess Aaliyah, trying to snap her out of her shock. He tells her she only has two choices: give up and die, or flee and survive. Meanwhile, the hero Ryuto kneels beside the lifeless body of Princess Amanda, completely devastated. He cries out, "This isn't right. No one deserves to die like this, even if they sinned." The new, self-proclaimed king, Vitri, scoffs at his words, saying, "It seems our hero is still much too young and naive." Standing over the slain monarchs, Vitri declares that none of the nobles in the hall deserve to live. He tells Ryuto, "You do not understand the crisis this nation is in." Ryuto, his face shadowed with rage, screams back, "That doesn't mean you can slaughter them like animals." Vitri just looks at him, completely unmoved. He coldly tells the hero that he'll come to his senses once he witnesses the tragedies of their nation, showing a vision of starving and suffering commoners. Vitri orders Knight Commander Ariana to detain the heroes. She warns Ryuto not to resist, as it will only cause him pain, her body crackling with blue magical energy. But Ryuto isn't backing down. He grits his teeth, ready to fight. He unleashes his full power, activating his limit break blessing and creating a massive sword of light that tears through the throne room. Ariana faces the immense attack head-on, her expression calm and confident. She's even a little impressed, saying, "Not bad. Your decisiveness and power deserve praise." Ryuto struggles, clearly putting everything he has into the attack. Their swords clash with a deafening clang. With what looks like minimal effort, Ariana parries his ultimate attack, shocking him. The force of their battle rips the palace floor to shreds. Aoi screams as the battle rages around them. She manages to conjure a barrier to protect herself and Tamaki from the attacking soldiers. Tamaki yells that they need to escape. The girls are struggling, lamenting that they don't have their weapons and are overwhelmed by the number of soldiers. Ariana watches them, looking completely in control of the situation. Ryuto is panting and sweating, clearly outmatched and exhausted. Ariana calmly notes that Tamaki and Aoi are also fighting an uphill battle. Ryuto is barely holding on against the Knight Commander. She taunts him, asking what he'll do now and if he'll continue this meaningless fight he can't win. She tells him to stop delaying the inevitable, confident that she will detain them all. She reveals her true goal, to dispose of the second princess, Aaliyah, who watches in terror as tears stream down her face. Inori watches the chaos unfold, his expression grim. He turns to the frozen princess and tells her bluntly that they need to move if they want to live, unless she plans on giving up and dying right here. He asks her pointedly, "Are you going to give up? Again?" A memory flashes through Aaliyah's mind of her younger sister walking away from her. She thinks of her sister. Inori's words hit home, and her despair turns into fiery resolve. "Never," she screams. "I will never give up. I will live for myself. And for Amanda." Tears streaming down her face, she declares, "I will not grant anyone the authority to decide where and when I would die." Seeing her newfound determination, a small smile appears on Inori's face. His fangs show as he says, "Then let me accompany you." He corrects himself, a newfound respect in his voice. Second Princess No. Aaliyah. Inori holds Princess Aaliyah, trying to snap her out of her shock. He tells her she only has two choices: give up and die, or flee and survive. He calls her not by her title, but by her name. Aaliyah. His words seem to reach her, as a look of grim determination appears on her face. Meanwhile, the battle between Ryuto and Ariana reaches its climax. With a powerful crash, Ryuto's glowing sword shatters against Ariana's. He cries out in shock, looking at the broken hilt in his hand. Ariana smirks, her eyes glowing. "This is the end," she declares. She throws a punch. She follows up with a devastating kick that sends him flying upside down. Ryuto lets out a pained cry as he's defeated. Tamaki watches in horror. She screams his name as Ariana stands victoriously over his unconscious body. Tamaki panics, realizing they're all going to die if they don't do something. Just then, Aoi's protective barrier shatters under the knight's assault, shocking both girls. Ariana gives the order, now. Seize them. The soldiers rush forward to capture the two remaining heroes. Tamaki and Aoi are quickly overwhelmed and pinned to the ground. Ryuto, barely conscious, weakly tells them to stop. Ariana orders her men to take them to the dungeon. Ariana watches as the heroes are dragged away, her expression unreadable. She wonders to herself, did I drag the fight with Ryuto for far too long? She lets out a weary sigh. But she quickly dismisses the thought, deciding her absence wouldn't have changed the outcome. Elsewhere, Inori is leading Aaliyah through the palace corridors. He uses his detection skill to sense the guards, telling her the right path is blocked and that they need to go left. Aaliyah, though panting and scared, understands and follows his lead. They narrowly sneak past two patrolling guards. Aaliyah is amazed at how he's able to locate everyone so quickly, thinking it feels like he's been training for this exact moment. Inori asks her if she can use magic. She confirms, but says she only knows the basic spells. As they run, he points to a corner and warns her, 3 soldiers will appear from that corner in about 10 seconds. He looks at her and says, take care of them. Aaliyah is terrified. She nervously asks if there are any other options as the 3 armored soldiers appear. Inori bluntly replies, nope. We've got to fight them. That's the only way. She gulps, stealing her nerves. She confirms, 3 footmen, right, as she gathers a ball of glowing blue energy in her hands. Inori starts a countdown for her. Yep. In 3, 2, 1. Right on cue, she unleashes her spell, Air Spheres. The spheres of compressed air hit the 3 soldiers directly in the face, encasing their heads and cutting off their air supply. Their swords clatter to the ground as they fall, unconscious. Inori peeks around the corner and is genuinely impressed. Wow! He compliments her, saying she handled them without even breaking a sweat and that her elite training paid off. She modestly replies that it only worked because he cast the spell beforehand, but she's glad her plan succeeded. She notices how exhausted he looks and asks if he's alright. He admits he's tired but tells her they have to keep moving. He's already spotted the next group of enemies and tells her they need to hurry to a safer location. Inori thinks to himself, I'm not worried about the soldiers. But Anna. She's a different story. He knows Aaliyah stands no chance against the powerful knight commander, and he's in no condition to fight her himself. He concludes, we should avoid her. At all costs. He lets out a sigh of relief as they reach a quiet hallway. He confirms the coast is clear, noting the palace was always short on guards. He tells Aaliyah he's going into the maid's chamber to catch his breath and plan their escape. Aaliyah looks terrified, asking if he's sure no one's inside. The open door reveals a grim sight, a trail of dark blood on the floor. They both stare in shock, Aaliyah covering her mouth in horror. The room is a slaughterhouse. The bodies of the maids are strewn across the floor and furniture, all of them brutally murdered. Inori realizes with a grim certainty why there were no guards. He's appalled that they killed the maids too, noting how thorough the coup was. Aaliyah whispers the name of her personal maid, Nala. She rushes to her side, kneeling beside her lifeless body. Aaliyah reaches out a trembling hand to her fallen friend. She pulls Nala's body into a hug, tears streaming down her face as she grieves. Inori watches the heartbreaking scene, his expression unreadable. He remembers Nala's words from before, how happy she was to see the princess smile again. He stands silently behind the weeping princess, giving her a moment. Aaliyah continues to mourn her loyal maid. After a while, Aaliyah pulls herself together, her expression hardening with resolve. She stands and tells him, I am done. Inori. Thank you for waiting. Inori tries to play it cool, looking away and saying, don't misunderstand. I was just catching my breath. He then asks, now then, how should we escape? Ariana activates a powerful magic seal on their cell door, telling them it's the highest class dungeon and they can't escape without artifacts. She warns them to sit still and not act foolish. Tamaki, defiant even in cuffs, challenges her, asking why they're cuffed if the seal is so strong. Ryuto explains that it's to keep them from hurting themselves, as she needs her special hostages in good condition. He continues his deduction, saying they're bargaining chips to negotiate with the Alliance since the coup was related to their summoning. Ariana confirms he's right, impressed by his logic. But Ryuto is consumed by a dark, simmering rage, his eyes glowing red with hatred. His intense aura sends a chill down the girl's spines. Ariana recognizes the look in his eyes. She has a flashback to a rainy battlefield, standing over the bodies of her fallen comrades. She thinks they are of someone who just realized how ignorant, powerless, and naive they are and have been. Those are the eyes that I once had. She turns to leave, giving Ryuto some harsh advice. You are still young, Ryuto. Never forget those emotions if you wish to survive in this world. And think more with your head, not your heart. She continues, had you been capable of doing so? Tamaki and Aoi could have escaped from that hall. Her words hit him like a punch to the gut. She walks away, leaving him to stew in his anger and guilt. The girls look down, defeated. Ryuto grits his teeth, furious that she's lecturing him from the other side of the bars. Ariana walks up a staircase, her mind on the two fugitives. She's surprised that there's still no news of their capture, admitting she didn't expect the second princess to be such an escape artist. She orders a guard to join the search, declaring she'll prepare and join them shortly. In the maid's chamber, surrounded by death, Aaliyah points to a map on the wall. Let's make this our destination, she says. Inori asks what's there. Aaliyah explains it's a secret door leading to underground aqueducts, an escape route they should take. Inori is skeptical, asking if only royals know that path. She assumes so, but admits she doesn't know if it's still accessible. Inori takes the lead, saying they have to try regardless. Aaliyah looks on, filled with resolve. She looks down at the body of her fallen maid, Nala, and apologizes for not being able to do anything for her. She whispers, I am grateful for all your service, before they leave. As they run through the corridors, the sound of approaching soldiers grows louder. Inori senses the danger, thinking, this is bad. More and more soldiers are gathering around us. Aaliyah, however, seems oblivious, asking if something is wrong. He warns her that they'll be surrounded in no time. They dash down a long, empty hallway. He uses his detection, counting 12 soldiers on the right and more in the back. He scans ahead, wondering what lies in front of them. He grabs Aaliyah's wrist. Wait, he says. He pulls her back just as they're about to run into a large group of soldiers lying in ambush. He warns her they need to avoid a frontal assault. He adds that they can't go back either, as they're being pursued from behind. The footsteps of the soldiers get closer and closer. Aaliyah asks if there's a way to sneak past them. Inori tells her it's impossible, as they're completely blocking the way to the secret door and must know about it. He figures they must have tortured someone for the information, or knew about it all along. Either way, they're in a tough spot. He sighs, thinking it would be easier to escape alone. What a conundrum, he mutters. But Aaliyah isn't giving up. Her eyes burn with a fierce light as she declares she won't die as easy prey and will fight until her last breath. Inori looks at her, a flicker of something in his own eyes. He smirks. So she hasn't given up, he thinks. Then she's going to be quite helpful going forward. He tells her he's sensed an army from a neighboring nation approaching. She's shocked. He confirms it, saying that while he doesn't know if they're here to help, he can tell they don't serve this kingdom. She asks when they'll arrive, and he tells her it will be when the sun is completely down. He explains that's only in 15 minutes, and while they might survive, they'll inevitably run into soldiers. Aaliyah steels herself, understanding the situation. Inori calculates their odds, figuring it's a 50-50 chance they'll make it. He tells her the plan, run towards the path with the fewest soldiers, and he's counting on her to cover his back. She nervously agrees. They're immediately spotted. A soldier shouts, "The second princess is here. To me, men." The captain orders his archers to fire magic arrows. A volley of glowing purple arrows flies towards them. But Aaliyah is ready, casting her barrier magic and creating a protective shield around them. She shouts, her eyes wide with adrenaline, 15 minutes, right? We will survive this, she declares with newfound courage. Aaliyah unleashes her barrier magic, a whirlwind of turquoise energy swirling around her as she protects herself and Inori from a barrage of magic arrows. She skillfully deflects the arrows with a swish of her hand. Inori shouts, "We turn right," as Aaliyah's barrier behind them cracks under the constant assault. Another volley of arrows slams into the wall where they just were. The captain of the guards yells, "Surround them. Don't let them escape." Inori is surprised by how quickly the soldiers are catching up to them. Using his detection, he sees another group of soldiers approaching from the left passage and asks Aaliyah if she can stop them. Her face splattered with blood, Aaliyah grits her teeth and gets ready to cast another spell. She throws up another glowing green barrier, surprising the soldiers. The soldiers are momentarily confused, but their captain orders them to break through it. They smash the barrier with their swords. Inori thinks to himself, that was really close, as he watches the barrier shatter. Aaliyah is panting, clearly exhausted from using so much magic. They finally reach a dead end with a barred window high above. Aaliyah looks up, realizing the sun is about to set. She cries out in despair, "A dead end?" Inori apologizes, explaining it was their only option. He tells her they only have to hold out for 3 more minutes until the sun sets. But just then, the soldiers find them, and their captain orders them to shoot. Aaliyah throws herself in front of Inori, shouting, "Get behind me," as she conjures multiple small barriers to block the incoming arrows. The soldiers are hesitant to charge, knowing she took down several of their men already. The captain just orders them to keep firing. Aaliyah knows her mana is running low and she can't block everything. She grits her teeth, focusing on avoiding any fatal shots. Another volley of magic arrows rains down on them. The arrows explode on impact, and the soldiers ready their next attack. Aaliyah's barriers begin to crack and fail under the constant barrage. She looks exhausted and beaten, her body covered in wounds. The arrows keep coming, and Aaliyah, barely conscious, asks Inori if the reinforcements are almost there. The soldiers notice she can't even deflect their attacks anymore and prepare to move in. Suddenly, one of the soldiers shouts in alarm, noticing that Inori is gone. Aaliyah looks at the spot where he was standing, now just a puddle of black liquid. She calls out his name in confusion. She screams for him, completely alone and surrounded. Her mind races, wondering if he used her as bait and escaped alone, even though he said they'd flee together. She begins to despair, wondering if he fabricated the news of reinforcements to make her fight, and if it was all a lie. The captain orders his men to be on the lookout for her accomplice and to finish her off. Aaliyah looks up, her eyes filled with terror and betrayal. The sun finally sets over the mountains. Just as the soldiers close in, a familiar voice says, "Kept you waiting, huh?" Inori appears from the shadows, his fangs bared in a vampiric grin. He's completely healed, standing over a terrified Aaliyah as he breaks through the stone wall of the dead end, a dark aura swirling around him. "It's my time now," he declares. Inori's sudden, maniacal laughter echoes through the hall, leaving Princess Aaliyah completely stunned and confused. The soldiers are plunged into sudden darkness. They are confused and can't see, their vision compromised. The captain orders them to light a torch. They fumble in the darkness, unable to see anything. Inori, now in full Dark Lord mode, summons his new familiar, the Shadow Wolf Fenrir. Fenrir responds, "As you wish," and materializes from the shadows, crackling with blue energy. The soldiers are confused. Fenrir brutally attacks the soldiers, slashing and biting them. The soldiers scream in pain and terror, having no idea what's happening. The captain tries to rally his men, demanding a report, but he's also attacked. The last soldier stands in a hallway filled with darkness and the bodies of his comrades. A final body thuds to the ground. The captain, barely alive, sees the aftermath. his vice captain is dead. He calls for a report. Inori, with a smug look, appears from the shadows. The captain desperately calls out for anyone to answer. Inori taunts him, saying no one will answer. The captain is shocked to see Inori, asking where he came from. Inori calmly asks his familiar, "You done, Fenrir?" The captain is confused. Fenrir's shadowy form appears behind him. Fenrir reports that he's slain the others and only the captain remains, calling them all weaklings. Inori agrees, "Well, compared to you, yeah." The last soldier is thrown to the ground and begs for help. Inori watches coldly as another soldier is killed. He tells the captain it's only fair for him to be on the receiving end after killing so many people. The captain trembles in fear. He looks up at Inori, now exuding a powerful, terrifying aura, and asks if he's really Inori Takafuji. Inori just replies, "Maybe." The captain sees his life flash before his eyes. Fenrir delivers the final, fatal bite. Aliyah lies on the floor, surrounded by the carnage. She weakly calls out Inori's name. Inori notices she's been trying to stop her bleeding with the little mana she has. He tells her it's good thinking, but she's lost too much blood. He states that the golden time for saving her has passed. She glares at him, accusing him of being able to use his power from the start. He tells her not to glare at him like that. He explains he can only use his full power after the sun goes down. He confesses that he made up the reinforcement story to buy time for the sun to set. He adds that he wouldn't have needed to do that if he wanted to escape alone. He smirks, saying that his lie motivated her, didn't it? She just glares. He looks at her determined expression and thinks, she's making those eyes again. He remembers her passionate declaration about not letting anyone decide where and when she would die. He thinks of them as the eyes loaded with conviction. He thinks that she hasn't given up on living, even in her current state. He decides to try something, saying he'll get straight to the point. He asks her bluntly, "You're a virgin, right?" She is shocked and asks why he's asking. He explains it's because there's a way to get her back on her feet if she is. He lays out the cost, she'll be bound to him as his servant. He presents her with a choice, die as a human, or become a non-human and survive? The choice is yours. Inori holds Princess Aliyah, his glowing red eye fixed on her. He gives her an ultimatum, would you accept your end and die as a human? Or become a non-human and survive? He tells her, the choice is yours. Lying in a pool of her own blood, Aliyah weakly repeats his words, die as a human. Her voice strengthens with resolve. I want. A vision of her happy past with her sister flashes through her mind, and she screams, to live. Even if it means selling my soul. To a devil, Inori stands over her, his dark aura swirling. A fanged grin spreads across Inori's face. Good answer, he says. He kneels down beside her. Her heart pounds in her chest. He leans in close and bites her neck. And yes, I am indeed closer to a devil than a god, he tells her. Her eyes widen in shock as the transformation begins. Aliyah's body is suspended in a dark, bloody energy as her heart beats, signaling her rebirth as a vampire. Inori gives his shadowy familiars a new set of orders: turn the dead soldiers into ghouls, get rid of the ones outside, and protect Aliyah until she wakes. He watches as his plan is set in motion. With a sinister smile, he thinks, I guess it's time to have some fun. Meanwhile, in the throne room, a soldier reports to the new king, Vitrei, that they've located the second princess. Vitrei is pleased and orders them to show no mercy. Vitrei looks on with a somber expression. He thinks back on the suffering of his kingdom, the famine, disease, and abandoned children. He reflects, I have witnessed them, yet I was powerless to change them. He remembers walking through the desolate streets with his soldiers, feeling guilty for doing nothing. He recalls his long journey with his loyal comrades. He thinks of Ariana, his comrade who shared his goal: to help guide this country to the right. His thought is cut short as a shadowy hand holding a dagger appears behind him. The blade plunges into the back of his neck. Inori's eyes glow with a cold, murderous light. The guards are shocked. Ariana, having just arrived, is also stunned. She turns, sensing the danger. She looks up, a feeling of dread washing over her. What is this? Ominous feeling? She sees the horrific scene. Vitri is dead, and Inori is standing on the throne, holding the usurper's severed head, surrounded by his ghouls. Inori looks down at her. Your plan's been foiled. There's no reason for you to fight anymore. What will you do now? The guards call Inori a fiend in charge, vowing to avenge their king. Inori's red eye glows. He just says, "Good answer," as he summons a storm of shadow daggers. He addresses the dying soldiers, sarcastically saying, "With all the blood we're shedding, I'd appreciate it." His shadow daggers fly through the air, finding their marks and killing the soldiers. He finishes his sentence with a sadistic grin. "If you could fight me with all you've got." A flurry of shadowy blades flies through the air with a swish. The blades find their mark, stabbing into an armored soldier. Inori stands amidst the carnage, a sadistic grin on his face. "Fight me with all you've got," he challenges. A blood-curdling scream echoes through the palace halls. A group of female knights hears the commotion. One asks, "Did you hear that?" Another confirms the scream came from the ballroom. They dash down the hallway towards the sound. The leader looks on in absolute horror at what she sees. They've arrived at the throne room, now a horrifying scene of death and destruction. Inori stands in the center, surrounded by a swirling vortex of shadows and bodies strung up by dark threads. Inori identifies the newcomers as the Battle Sisters, an elite unit of female warriors who served under Knight Commander Ariana. The leader of the Battle Sisters, her face a mask of fury, demands, "Inori Takafuji, did you do all this?" He replies with a taunting question, "If I answer that question, will you fight me with all your strength?" he asks, gesturing to the grotesque display of bodies hanging from the ceiling. One of the sisters with pink hair looks on in shock and disbelief. She grits her teeth, tears of rage welling in her eyes. She darts forward, ignoring her comrade's warning cry, and thrusts her sword toward Inori. She succeeds, stabbing him clean through the chest. He coughs up a spray of blood. Tears stream down her face as she believes she has avenged her fallen comrades. Inori looks down at the sword impaling him with a thoughtful expression. He looks at the crying warrior, his expression softening slightly. Such intense emotions. Did I perhaps kill your beloved? If so, then I'm sorry, he says, pulling her into a bizarre embrace as dark tendrils begin to envelop her. The leader of the Battle Sisters is shocked, but then she sees Inori's wound heal instantly, the sword being pushed out of his body with a squelch. She rallies her remaining troops, ordering them to ready themselves. She declares Inori a threat that must be eliminated, wondering how he could remain so calm after taking a direct hit. She decides her best bet is to aim for his weak points. Inori activates his Identify skill, his red eye glowing as he analyzes his opponents. He notices the leader's glowing weapon. Is that an artifact? It looks totally different from the common weapons that soldiers. He's cut off as another of the sisters' attacks. She lunges, her weapon crystallizing into a deadly blue shard. The third sister holds up a glowing blue orb, ready to cast a spell. She shouts, "I've immobilized him," as the other sister yells, "I'll get him." But Inori easily shatters the crystal attack with a weapon of his own. He's impressed by their artifacts, noting their overwhelming speed and power. One of the sisters manages to land a hit, and Inori grunts in pain. The leader realizes they're in for a tough fight if they keep this up. Inori, bleeding and grinning, thinks to himself, "Those artifacts are much more of a hassle than I thought." In a shocking move, he severs his own arm to escape a binding spell. He leaps away, leaving the Battle Sisters completely stunned that he can still move. The leader thinks he's made a mistake and prepares to attack him when he lands. But it's a trap. He unleashes his umbral web, ensnaring all three of them in a net of dark, glowing threads. One of the sisters is caught just as she's about to attack. The other two are also completely immobilized and struggling. Inori lands gracefully, saying that while he'd love to enjoy their teamwork, he's short on time. He then challenges the vice commander to a one-on-one duel. He thinks to himself that a duel with her would be a good warm-up before his real fight with the commander. Inori's eyes glow with dark power as he thinks, it would be a good warm-up before my fight with the commander. The vice commander of the Battle Sisters, still trapped in Inori's Gleipnir, asks in disbelief, "You intend to fight Commander Igiana? You must have a death wish." Inori smirks, "You are the strongest one among them, right? Wouldn't it be better for you to fight alone? That way, you can use your abilities without holding back." He taunts her, asking why she sticks with her weaker comrades. She gets enraged and leaps forward to attack him. He blocks her strike, a manic grin on his face. "Shut up," he yells, his dark power crackling. She screams back, "You know nothing about me." He easily parries her attack, sending her weapon flying. Using his shadow shift, he sinks into the floor and reappears behind her, trapping her in a chokehold. He recognizes her as a talented warrior and offers her a place by his side. A flashback shows Ariana introducing a new recruit, Maria, to the Battle Sisters. The sisters warmly welcome her into their group. Maria, the vice commander, screams at him, "How dare you insult my comrades? I will never forgive you." Inori loves her spirit, encouraging her desire to kill as he scratches her cheek with his clawed glove. "Good," he says with a crazed smile. "Let's fight for just a bit longer." He continues to fight her, a dark blade in his hand. He pulls on the Gleipnir threads, tightening them around the other two captured sisters. Maria screams for her sisters to get up, telling them they must avenge Alp's death. She declares that she is not alone, that they are the Battle Sisters, remembering happier times with her friends. But her declaration is cut short as one of her resurrected, ghoulish comrades bites her on the shoulder. She looks in horror at the face of her friend, Elise. Her other zombified friend, Miranda, attacks her as well. Inori reveals that he turned them all into ghouls. He looks at the crying ghoul of Elp, the one who first stabbed him, and says he enjoyed their battle. He says it would have been better if it had lasted longer, but what's done is done. He turns to leave, telling the ghouls he'll leave them to it. Maria is left in utter shock and despair. She screams his name in pure, unadulterated rage. The ghouls descend upon her, and the sounds of crunching and cracking fill the air. Inori stands in the darkness, his eyes glowing. He looks out at the moonlit castle, thinking it's time to end this. A soldier is shown being devoured by a shadowy beast. Ariana dashes through the halls, following the sounds of battle. She finds Inori, blood dripping from his mouth, holding a dagger with one of his familiars by his side. She runs through the bloody throne room, her heart pounding. The thrones are empty and splattered with blood. She continues her search, her gut instinct telling her something is terribly wrong. She's filled with a growing sense of dread. She finds the severed head of the new king, Vitri, covered by a cloak. She kneels, holding the head of the man she loved, her face a mask of grief and shock. She thinks to herself that her gut feeling was correct. She whispers his name, Lord Vitri. A silhouette of Inori with his vampire wings appears before the full moon. He lands on the balcony, looking at the grieving Ariana and says, "The moon is beautiful tonight." He explains, "It's a popular pickup line from the world I used to live in." Ariana looks up, her eyes wide with shock and fury. She recognizes him. He smirks, revealing his fangs, and tells her, "That head's my gift to you, Commander." Inori, with a devilish grin, presents the severed head of Vitri to Ariana, saying, "That head's my gift to you, Commander." She cradles the head of her fallen lover, her expression a mixture of grief and rage. She looks up at him, her eyes filled with fury. "Inori, why do you have demon wings?" He just stands there, silhouetted against the moon, his demonic features on full display. She explains the trait only appears in those who have sold their souls to demons for power. She asks him why he threw away his pride as a human just to survive. Inori looks genuinely confused by her question. He tells her flatly, "I don't know what you're talking about. This is how I live. Nothing more, nothing less." She screams at him, "Such a pathetic purpose is not enough. I fight for the good of this nation," she declares with passion. She tells him that in this world, one needs a firm reason for life, be it family, ambition, or revenge. She clenches her fist, regretting not having taught him this properly. She whispers, an apology filled with sorrow, "Forgive me, Inori." But Inori is having none of her lecture. He clutches his head, groaning in annoyance. He sarcastically thanks her for the lecture, asking if she still sees him as a student. He tells her to face it, her uprising has failed, and she's no longer in a position to fight for the kingdom. She tries to argue, but he cuts her off. "You don't understand the situation you are in," he says as his shadow familiars materialize from the ground, their red eyes glowing. His ghoulish army of fallen soldiers emerges from the darkness, surrounding her. He tells her she has no way out. Ariana watches in horror as the undead soldiers, her former comrades, shamble towards her. Inori lists off the victims, the soldiers who cornered them, the ones who killed mercilessly in the castle. "And your battle sisters," he finishes, a dark look in his eyes. "There's no one left. But you." He drops a bound and gagged body at her feet, telling her that they're in no condition to fight, but she can still save them. "That is, if you sacrifice yourself," he says, lounging on a pile of his familiars with a bored expression. He thinks to himself that he was looking forward to a good fight, but at this rate, it'll just be a casual practice match. He wonders if he should use his hypnosis to force her to fight him, but decides against it. "Nah, that's no fun either," he thinks with a sigh. He stands up and makes a decision. He tells Ariana that she and Vitri will pay for all this with their lives, but he'll keep the other soldiers as his playthings. He then drops his sword, discarding it. Inori is confused. "What are you doing?" he asks. Ariana's face is shadowed, her expression unreadable. She raises her own sword and plunges it into the ground with a powerful slam. "I was praying," she says. She explains that she prayed for her comrades who died unjustly, and for those who are about to meet their ends. Her sword begins to glow with a fiery red energy. Inori watches, intrigued. She looks at him, her eyes burning with resolve, and declares, "I will offer up your life to them." Ariana's sword glows with a fiery red energy as she declares that she has prayed for her fallen comrades and will now offer up Inori's life to them. Her eyes burn with an intense, crimson light, filled with grief and a desire for vengeance. Inori watches her, a dark aura swirling around him, a small smile playing on his lips. He asks her with a taunting tone, "Are you saying that you're discarding the lives of your knights?" She scoffs at his words, reminding him that she was the one who built the knighthood over the years. "I will kill them all. With my own hands," she declares with a cold fury. Inori is momentarily taken aback by her resolve. He points out the flaw in her plan, but you will not have a country to rule if all the royals and soldiers are gone. She looks down, her armor glowing with a red aura. "I still have my people," she says. She continues, her voice filled with conviction, "It doesn't matter. If the noble class corrupts, armies die, and royal bloodlines end. So long as the people remain, there is a kingdom to fight for. That is my life's purpose." Her entire body erupts in a massive wave of red energy. A wide, manic grin spreads across Inori's face. He looks absolutely thrilled. Ariana, still radiating power, says, "You seem to be enjoying this situation quite a bit." Inori admits that he underestimated her and apologizes for his disrespect, promising no more lies or tricks. "It's only right for me to be honest with you at this point," he says, his hands crackling with dark energy. The ghoulish remains of her soldiers begin to stir. She realizes with horror that they are the corpses of those who could not become vampires and that there's no way to bring them back. Inori stands before his undead army and states coldly, "Which means I basically killed all of your comrades." He then gives Ariana a chilling ultimatum, "Now, your job here is to become their food. Ariana's eyes widen, her red aura flaring. She says his name, then with a newfound understanding, declares, "You have truly become." Inori's heart pounds in anticipation. "My nemesis." As she utters these words, a massive explosion of red light erupts from her body, incinerating the surrounding ghouls. Inori is shocked by the sudden, immense display of power. He's sent flying back by the force of the blast. He thinks to himself, "She's more dangerous than I thought." He wonders if this is her secret weapon, an artifact. He watches in amazement as she wipes out his entire army of ghouls in the blink of an eye. Her eyes are glowing with a fierce red light, mirroring his own. Inori is ecstatic. Yes. Those eyes, he thinks. They are the ones I wanted to see. He stands before his remaining familiars, his voice filled with newfound respect and excitement. "Commander, no, Igiana Esh. As your nemesis, I will fight you with all I've got." Surrounded by his shadowy familiars, Inori points at Ariana, his eyes glowing with dark energy. He shouts with manic glee, "Commander, no, Igiana Esh. As your nemesis, I will fight you with all I've got." Ariana, her face a mask of cold fury, looks on as her fallen comrades are desecrated. One of the battle sisters screams as she's consumed by the shadows. In a massive explosion of red energy, Ariana single-handedly destroys all of the ghouls in the throne room. Inori, unimpressed, taunts her, reminding her he still commands many of her past comrades and questioning how long she can maintain such powerful attacks. A flashback shows the battle sisters being overwhelmed by ghouls after Ariana had left them. Ariana's expression is one of pure, undiluted rage. She remembers her sisters, smiling and happy in a time before the tragedy. She unleashes another devastating wave of red energy from her sword. The attack explodes with incredible force. But her resurrected comrades are relentless, and one manages to stab her from behind. She's surrounded and impaled by multiple blades, yet she remains standing. She pulls a sword from her shoulder and asks Inori if he's just going to watch. Standing amidst the bodies of her former sisters, she threatens to come after him if he won't fight. Inori is surprised, thinking the backstabbing should have worked. He notes she's still at full power and decides to avoid a frontal assault. He then remembers his conversation with Princess Aaliyah about Ariana's power. In a flashback, Aaliyah explains that Ariana was already strong, but the queen gifted her a powerful artifact, a sword that gets stronger as the wielder uses mana. Ariana, with her artifact, easily deflects the shadow daggers that Inori had used to kill her soldiers. The daggers shatter against her power. Inori is shocked that she can break his black magic-empowered knives, realizing the artifact's power is absurd. He marvels that it's a blade that can cut through anything. Ariana uses a skill, Omit Magic Circle. She unleashes a powerful air hammer spell, sending a massive shockwave of red energy towards Inori. Inori is shocked by the sudden attack. He's sent flying, crashing into a pillar. He's amazed that she can cast magic without a circle. Ariana taunts him, asking what he'll do now that hovering is no longer an option. Inori uses his daggers to scale a wall, thinking he has to fight her up close and hopes his plan works. He throws a volley of daggers, which are easily deflected, while she counters with powerful red energy slashes. He uses his shadow shift, planning to take her by surprise. He appears behind her and slashes, thinking he's got her. He thrusts a shadow blade forward. She is surprised. But he only stabbed an afterimage. He's shocked, thinking his surprise attack should have worked. Ariana reappears, complimenting his speed. He thinks it's like she has eyes everywhere. He nervously thanks her. His eye identifies her sword as the pure mithril sword, an artifact that lets the user cast magic without circles. He understands now. He realizes it's a mithril weapon, effective against demons like him. Ariana confirms this and asks if the second princess taught him about it, complimenting his diligence. He thanks her for the compliment. He throws another shadow dagger. She dodges with incredible speed. Inori is shocked by her speed. She compliments his creative use of skills and asks what's next. Ariana, her sword glowing with red energy, compliments Inori's creative use of skills. She stands ready under the full moon, her eyes glowing with power. What's next? She asks. Inori kneels amidst the rubble, a dark aura swirling around him. I have a question, he says. She asks, what? He explains his deduction. She instantly reacted to his surprise attack because she enveloped the entire training ground in a thin layer of mana to detect enemies. Am I right? He asks. She confirms he is, recognizing it as his own detection power. He realizes she didn't even need his detection skill in the first place, calling her overpowered. She clarifies that her method exposes her to enemies and isn't good for stealth. But it's perfect for combat due to its fast reaction speed. She also adds that she can see the Gleipnir threads he's laid out. Inori grits his teeth. TCH. Good catch, he admits. He activates his Gleipnir, and the threads shoot towards her. But she easily slices through them with her glowing red sword. Inori is shocked that she can cut through his supposedly unbreakable strings. Her eyes glow with an intense, crimson light. Suddenly, Fenrir bursts from the ground in a shower of ice, summoned by Inori. The giant wolf is now a shadowy familiar, its fur crackling with blue and black energy. Inori smirks, wondering if his attack from outside her detection range worked. Ariana asks if the giant wolf is his familiar as well. She admits it was a good strategy, but she can nullify long-range attacks before they reach her. Inori realizes he was only able to catch her by surprise before because she was distracted. He knows her reaction speed is out of this world, so he prepares to use his air hammer spell. The spell hits its mark, creating a massive explosion. Inori commands his familiars to keep up the assault and not give her any room to breathe. The familiars attack from the rooftop as Ariana deflects a barrage of shadow daggers. He praises their good move but knows it won't last long. He considers pressuring her until her mana runs out, but realizes she doesn't look tired at all. He knows he's running out of ghouls and knives and needs a new plan. He analyzes the situation. The area is warded. Ariana is a powerful fighter with an artifact that can cut through his Gleipnir. And her reaction speed is unreal. He concludes he has to fight her up close while avoiding her detection. It's a crazy plan, but he has to try. His answer is to go head-to-head with her. She's not surprised, calling him predictable and asking if he really thought she'd be without. A defensive measure beyond your knowledge, a massive, shimmering red barrier appears in front of her. Inori is thrown back, his arm dissolving into shadows. His heart thumps in his chest as he's sent flying. Ariana grabs his head, declaring, "This is the end." Inori, she knows a strike from her mithril blade will prevent him from regenerating. But Inori just gives her a crazed grin. The end. I think not, Igiana. Suddenly, a shadowy familiar lunges from behind her. It bites down hard on her shoulder, and she cries out in pain. Inori explains his true plan. His shadow can attack at close range without stepping into her detection zone. Ariana realizes her mistake. She thought he was defenseless without his arms and decided to strike him down first. What dash? She cries out in shock. Inori's arm regenerates with a glowing red light. Underestimated me much, he taunts. Inori, his arm fully regenerated and glowing with red energy, taunts Ariana. Underestimated me much? Ariana is furious, thinking, is he invulnerable to everything except pure mithril? Inori unleashes his Gleipnir again. But he stops just short of her mana-infused detection sphere. She's shocked that he was able to stop his attack so precisely. Inori grins, our eyes have met. He then unleashes his hypnosis magic from his demon eye of magic circles. But Ariana's sword cuts through the magic circle, nullifying the attack. Inori laughs, impressed that her sword can even cut through magic. He commands his Gleipnir to shrink. The threads slice off one of Fenrir's legs. Ariana is confused by the attack. Inori just smirks and says, "Beats me." She asks why he's smiling, and he replies with a simple, "Because I'm having fun." he asks her, aren't you? A small smile plays on her lips as she admits, perhaps. Inori's own grin widens. He leaps into the air, shouting, here I come. Their blades clash in a flurry of sparks and energy. Inori, dodging her attacks, thinks, I should finish this now. He prepares another magic circle in his eye. Ariana, seeing the new magic circle, assumes he's casting another spell and prepares to cut through it. But this time, it's not an attack. The magic circle teleports him right in front of her. She's completely caught off guard. Inori grins, thinking, I knew she would close in to destroy my magic circle. I can disable her arm and attack her weak points before she retaliates. He grabs her sword arm, his fangs bared. But Ariana is one step ahead. Her leg is already injured, and she can't dodge. He's also too close for her to effectively use her sword. She knows it's all or nothing. She pours all her remaining energy into her sword arm. She unleashes her air hammer point blank. The blast sends a massive shockwave of red energy. But Inori is shocked when her arm cracks and breaks under the strain of her own attack. He wonders if she targeted her own arm with her magic. He's sent flying back by the force of the blast. Ariana is also thrown back, her arm shattered. Inori screams her name as he's engulfed in a wave of dark energy. His own arm shatters from the impact. Ariana, looking grim but determined, calls out his name. Inori lies on the ground, defeated. Ariana stands over him, victorious. Fenrir darts forward. It leaps at Ariana, ready to defend its master. But she easily slices through the giant wolf, defeating it in a single strike. Both Fenrir and Inori lie defeated on the ground, dissolving into shadows. Ariana looks down at them, a single tear running down her face as she exhales in the cold air. Rest in peace. Inori Takafuji, she says. Ariana, defeated, says, I enjoyed our battle. Inori. A single tear streams down her face as she gives him a sad, respectful smile. The full moon shines down on the blood-soaked battlefield of the castle courtyard. Ariana stands amidst the carnage, holding Inori's severed head. She's exhausted but determined, thinking, how long has it been since I fought with everything I have? I am exhausted, but I cannot stop. She prepares another attack, thinking, I must eliminate the second. But the head in her hands dissolves into black goo. She looks on in absolute shock. Inori's real head emerges from his own shadow, reattaching to his neck. His heart pounds as he thinks, my head is nothing more than an attachment. With his body fully regenerated, he kicks Ariana with incredible force. She's shocked by his recovery. He slams his fist into the ground. She's thrown against a wall, coughing up blood. She groans in pain. In a gruesome display, Inori's headless body picks up its own head. The neck heals instantly. He casually puts his head back on, clears his throat, and does a quick mic check. Alright, everything looks good, he says, as if nothing happened. Ariana is in disbelief. But I beheaded you. With my mithril sword. How? Inori explains that while mithril may work on demons from this world, it doesn't work on him since he's from another world. He reveals he tested this theory when she sliced his arm off earlier, and his glowing red hand proves his point. Ariana realizes he let his arm get cut off on purpose. A sound strategy, she admits, impressed. He explains that he assumed the brain wasn't a vital organ for a vampire. He also mentions that his spine was injured in his fight with Fenrir, but it didn't critically impact him. This meant that only the heart was essential. It was just a theory, until now. Ariana, defeated, coughs up blood and admits defeat. Inori tells her he only won because he got lucky. She admits she lacked experience in this kind of close combat. Inori says he could tell. So you did know, he says. Bummer, I literally gave everything I had in that fight. She lets out a weak laugh. That I could tell. As well. Inori looks down at his defeated opponent. He tells her he will take all of her strength, doubting she'd make a fun familiar. Goodbye, he says, before teleporting away. He arrives at the entrance to the hero's dungeon. The three heroes are startled by his sudden appearance. He casually greets them, "You look like crap, Ryuto." They're all shocked to see him. He holds up an artifact key and tells them he brought something to open their cell. They're overjoyed to see he's okay, but he just coolly dismisses their concern. He tells them they should be more worried about themselves and casts his hypnosis spell on them. Ryuto yells, "What did you do?" The girls flinch as the spell hits them. Inori tells them to relax, as he's not going to hurt them. He unlocks the cell and tells them to come out. Ryuto stumbles out, complaining that he can't move. Inori is surprised he's still conscious. He wonders if the hypnosis effectiveness varies with the target's willpower. He puts his hands on the girls' heads, telling them he has a job for all of them. With his eyes glowing, he gives his command, "I need you to clean up this mess." Inori, his eyes glowing with dark power, commands the hypnotized heroes, "I need you to clean up this mess." "You can do that for me, right?" Ryuto is horrified by the order. "What?" he exclaims. Inori gives his instructions to Tamaki, telling her to report that things got complicated and he died. He hands her a fire staff and orders her to burn everything and everyone, leaving no bodies behind. She hesitates, unsure if she can do it. He tells her to just not hold back, remarking that he's noticed she does that a lot. Inori then orders Aoi to shield them with her barrier. Ryuto is still protesting, but Tamaki, now fully embracing her destructive power, is excited. She declares that with his permission, she feels like she can do anything and will reduce them all to ashes. Ryuto tries to stop her, yelling that there might be survivors. But Tamaki, with a crazed look in her eyes, just smiles and says she's got this. Ryuto screams, "No!" The head of the staff crackles with intense magical energy. The entire throne room is engulfed in a massive inferno. Explosions rip through the palace as the fire spreads. Inori, safe inside Aoi's barrier, is impressed. He can feel the intense heat even through the shield and realizes this is Tamaki's true, unbound power. He thinks to himself that a hero's blessing really is something else. He turns to a horrified Ryuto and gives him a mission, to relay the truth of what happened. The citizens of the capital watch in horror as the palace burns. Aaliyah, having escaped, watches the inferno from a distance, tears in her eyes. Amidst the flames, the remains of the fallen lie scattered. She thinks of her sister, Amanda, and her loyal maid, Nala. "Mother. Father," she whispers, mourning her lost family. Suddenly, a girl with red eyes and hair appears before Inori in the burning forest. She walks towards him, the flames parting for her. Inori, surprised, asks, "Satisfied?" She replies, "I would say so." "Are you done with cleaning up the mess?" Inori is shocked, asking how she knew about that. She explains that when his blood entered her body, it brought his knowledge and thoughts with it. She adds that it also changed the color of her hair. Inori is amused, asking if that's really the first thing she noticed after coming back from the dead. She explains that she feels tied to his words and actions and probably can't disobey or harm him. She playfully demands, "Gimme your hand," and he agrees. She promptly slaps him, leaving a red handprint on his cheek. She says with a pout, "Well, but I'm sure it's not all bad." She adds, "That color also suits you." Inori just rubs his cheek, a little stunned. She admits that she's grateful for what he's done, as she now has life, freedom, and a goal. She adds that she has a feeling she'll be released from his control once she's stronger than him. "Just you wait, Inori," she declares. "I will someday outpower you and win true freedom." Inori just listens with a smile. "The game's on, then," he declares. In the moonlit forest, Inori stands over the bodies of his defeated enemies, his suit pristine despite the battle. He says, "Now, then. Let's go to our base of operations, my former princess." The newly resurrected Aaliyah, now with red streaks in her hair, is confused. "Base of operations? When did you establish one?" she asks. He just smiles mysteriously. It's a long story. Just know that it's probably safer than the neighboring cities. Aliyah is amazed as they arrive at the hidden sanctuary. Inori explains that this is where Fenrir used to live and that the barrier provides a good cover. He tells her this will be where they hone their skills and plan for the future. She's surprised to see a sturdy-looking hut. He explains it was already there, but his craft weapon skill transformed it. She asks if that means the hut is now a weapon. He confirms that it's basically their battle fortress now, which she finds nonsensical. She comments on how small the room is for 2 people. Inori retorts that it's small compared to her castle. He tells her this is her life now and she better get used to it, though he adds that he'll find another bed. She says she never thought of herself as a member of the royal family anyway and leans her head on his shoulder, saying she doesn't mind sleeping together like this. She looks at him with a blush, saying she owes him her life and wants to settle the debt now. And this is my only way to pay you back, she says, her intentions clear. Inori is completely taken aback. He thinks to himself that this was definitely not on his bingo card. She nervously says she's ready. He bluntly tells her, then take them off. She blushes furiously, squeezing her eyes shut. She slips her robe off her shoulders, asking if this is good enough for him. But Inori isn't playing along. He combines his demon eye of vision and craft weapon skills. In a flash of golden light, he creates a brand new outfit for her out of thin air. It's done, he says, looking completely serious. Aliyah is left standing in a stylish new black dress, completely confused. He tells her that her mind is in the gutter because her clothes were tattered and that she must have misunderstood what he meant by bound to me. He clarifies that he still has the right to choose his partner and asks if this was really her only way to pay him back. She just stares at him, blushing. He smirks, "You've got confidence, I'll give you that." She's completely flustered, thanking him for the clothes and running off to get changed. As she slams the door, Inori leans back with a smug smile. Heh, she's definitely more expressive now. Aliyah comes out onto the balcony, still reeling from the encounter. So I got rejected, she thinks, burying her face in her arms. She wonders why she even said that, thinking of all the other ways she could have shown her resolve. She watches the smoke rising from the burning castle in the distance. She admits to herself that maybe she wanted to be punished for abandoning her nation and surviving alone. Suddenly, Inori opens the door, asking with a teasing grin, "So, sleeping with me is a punishment?" She jumps, startled. He tells her that her words stung a bit. She frantically tries to take it all back, saying she's still processing everything and that she's truly grateful he saved her. He just looks at her, feigning doubt. She starts to cry, insisting she wasn't being herself. She declares that while she may have given up her humanity to live, "I have no regrets." Inori then asks if she'll help him with an experiment. She eagerly agrees, ready to do anything to help. He explains that he stole some skills from their enemies at the castle, and one of them is tricky. He reveals the skill, intimacy skill. Aliyah is completely baffled by the name. He nonchalantly explains that he thinks he can level it up by touching her chest. She understandably freaks out. He tells her he'll keep it short, adding, "Surely it's better than going to bed with me." She yells at him not to say it so casually, calling him a creep. He reminds her of her promise to help, and as he reaches for her, she calls him a devil. He corrects her, "I'm a vampire, not a devil." Inori thinks about all the skills he's gained. He has combat skills like archery and staff fighting, and a bunch of domestic skills like cooking and cleaning. He also has a bunch of random, seemingly useless skills like pen spinning and poker face. He decides to just level them all up since he's not sure what's useful. He's flying with his demon wings and calls down to Aliyah, who is practicing her own flying skills on a clifftop. She lands gracefully, her new skill genius on display. Inori watches her, thinking she's quite good at flying now. He asks how her new clothes feel, and she replies that they're very comfortable. He also notices that she doesn't seem to be affected by the sun god's scorn curse like he is. He hands her the pure mithril sword he took from Ariana and tells her to draw it. She draws the sword, and it erupts in a massive blade of red energy. He tells her it's called Terminus Edge, and he's enhanced it with black magic. She's shocked, wondering why he'd give her such a powerful weapon. She recognizes it as the artifact Ariana used and calls it a masterpiece. Inori explains that the sword doesn't respond to him, probably because his body doesn't have this world's mana. She asks if that means he can't use any artifacts. He confirms it's likely. "That's why I'm giving it to you," he says. "I'm sure you can use it since its mana glowed when you pulled it out." She asks if he's sure, pointing out that it could help her become stronger than him. He just smiles confidently. "Go for it. I don't need a fancy weapon to up my game." He asks if her definition of strength includes weapons. She playfully replies, "Maybe?" Inori explains the fundamental difference between them. She's a native of this world, and as such, can use magic and artifacts, but cannot learn skills or level up. He, on the other hand, is a visitor from another world and can gain skills and levels, but can't use this realm's magic. She challenges him, asking if they should compete to see who becomes stronger. He confidently replies that he'll probably win since he can level up. She smirks, revealing her fangs. He. "But I have a way to level up too, you know," he asks how. "This," she says. He immediately understands. "Ah, you can drain blood to get stronger as well, I see." He asks about her first drain, and she excitedly says she copied what he did and felt stronger. He congratulates her and asks who the lucky victim was. Inori decides to get back on track. Anyways, now that things have settled, let's get ready to leave. Aaliyah asks if he was waiting for her to get better. She corrects herself, saying that he was actually waiting for his familiar, Fenrir, to recover. Just then, Fenrir poofs into a much smaller, fluffier form. It apologizes, saying if it had recovered faster, it could have carried her. Inori tells it not to worry, acknowledging its sacrifice to lower Ariana's guard. Aaliyah is immediately smitten with the fluffy Fenrir, calling him cute. Fenrir is not having it and tells her to stop touching him. She just hugs him tighter. Inori smirks, telling her to see if she still thinks he's cute when he's fully recovered. Fenrir escapes into the shadows. Inori just says, "Well, he ran off." Aaliyah sadly calls out for Fenny. He asks her if she likes animals. She says not really, but she used to take care of the pets Amanda got tired of. Inori says he can totally imagine that happening and tells her they'll be leaving tonight. She asks if he has a destination in mind. He says no, he just wants to go somewhere he can get the information he wants. He asks if there's a country that doesn't summon heroes. She tells him there's none. He's shocked. She confirms that he won't find a nation that doesn't summon heroes. He can't believe it. She explains that all 12 nations are required by law to summon 3 heroes each. He asks, stunned, "Isn't that too many?" He realizes that means there are a total of 36 heroes summoned by 12 nations, scattered across the world. A flashback shows the other heroes from different nations. He thinks to himself, I guess it's safe to say that they are over-heroed. A group of cultists offer up sacrifices, chanting, demons, beastmen, elves, dwarves, dragonfolks, and humans. Accept these offerings and return to us, they plead to a glowing, horned skull. A gruesome ritual begins as an eyeball bubbles in a bloody concoction. A grotesque, fleshy hand emerges from the brew. A demon is summoned, and the cultists cheer in delight. The summoned creature's eye glows with a piercing blue light. The cultists chant the name of their demonic majesty, Ignoa. In a bustling city, Aaliyah walks through a crowded market. A baker calls out to her, "Hey, Allie. Got some bread for ya?" He insists it's his treat, a thank you for her help. She tries to refuse but he won't take no for an answer. Another vendor offers her a bag of fresh produce. Aaliyah, her arms full of gifts, shyly thanks them. Another friendly local offers her more. She explains in a narration that she goes by the name Allie here. She narrates that a long time has passed since she and Inori arrived in Legend, a remote city in the holy nation of Rhine. Legend is a bustling merchant city with brick roads. The lively energy of the streets surprised her, as she'd never seen anything like it back home. As part of the holy nation, it also has a large number of clerics and a grand church. To make a living, she and Inori joined the Adventurers Guild. Inori chose the alias Kiri. Since he naps during the day, she does all the work, but she has no complaints. Because it's how she's been able to form connections with the locals. As she calls out for Kiri, a man is suddenly sent flying by a powerful blow. Aaliyah watches in shock as the man sails through the air. Blood splatters as he's hit. The man crashes into a cart, and weakly calls out her alias before correcting himself. Ali. Help. Me. No, Kiri? A blindfolded woman with white hair stands over him, smiling cruelly. She's impressed that he's still conscious after she hit him so hard. She adds that for a louse who can't keep his hands to himself, he has some potential. Inori, lying beaten on the ground, blurts out, "I like you." The woman introduces herself as Fanatica Rasoth, a Knight Templar of the Holy Nation, and vows to put him on the path of goodness. She grabs him by the collar. He's completely confused by her sudden declaration. Aaliyah watches the bizarre scene unfold, a sweat drop on her cheek. She narrates that this was the first city on their journey. Their first task. And their first acquaintance. All of these marked the beginning of her new life, far from home. Inori narrates that ever since he joined the Adventurers Guild as Kiri, he's been living like a bum. He lets out a huge, satisfied burp after chugging some more ale. He's shown lounging in a tavern, surrounded by empty bottles, eating and drinking non-stop. When the waitress asks how he'll pay, he drunkenly tells her to put it on Ali's tab. Meanwhile, Aaliyah, or Ali, has been steadily rising through the guild ranks by completing requests. She's even earned the moniker Ali the Black Rose for her fighting style, annihilating fiends in her black dress with her raven hair dancing in the wind. Her appearance has also won her a lot of fans among the other adventurers. And thanks to her success, Inori can drink all he wants without worrying about money. Other adventurers gossip, wondering why the famous Black Rose is working with such a bum and if he has some kind of leverage over her. A grizzled old man in a hood tells Inori to quit mooching and find some work. Inori just tells him to leave him alone. Inori thinks to himself that this old guy is the only person in the guild who talks to him. He figures the old man is just a loner with nothing better to do. In reality, Inori has been hanging out in the tavern to boost his poison resistance skill, befriend adventurers, and gather information, though he admits his behavior has likely driven everyone away except for the old man. He thinks that while he's not getting much useful info, at least he's leveling up his poison resistance. The tavern bell jingles, announcing a new arrival. It's the Knight Templar, Fanatica Rasoth. Inori is completely flustered, wondering why a priestess would come to a place like this. He drunkenly calls her over to have a drink with him, much to the old man's annoyance. She cheerfully declines, telling him not to drink too much. He drunkenly asks about the mark on her hat. He tells her to come closer so he can get a better look. He leans in too close, and she moves away. She explains that the insignia is a mark of their holy faith. With a wicked grin, she tells him it's not something to be played with. Just as things are about to get weird, Aaliyah arrives, calling out his alias, Kiri. The other patrons are shocked by the sudden turn of events. Inori thinks to himself, looks like I approached her the wrong way. Suddenly, Fanatica throws him over her shoulder and carries him out of the tavern. Aaliyah watches, completely stunned. Fanatica holds him by the chin, her eyes sparkling. She declares that he has potential. The other adventurers cheer, glad to see the freeloader finally getting what they think he deserves. She declares that she's getting to it and will teach him a lesson. Inori just looks down, defeated, as she says, God never abandons his children. Let us march in his name, she shouts, carrying him off over her shoulder as Aaliyah watches, bewildered. Fanatica looks back and asks if Aaliyah has something to say. Aaliyah nervously asks what she's planning to do with him. Fanatica explains that he hit on her in the guild building, but she sees great potential in his guts. She declares that by God's will, she's going to pull this louse out of the miserable mental pit he's in. Aaliyah is left speechless as the other adventurers celebrate her newfound freedom. They congratulate her and even offer to partner up with her now that the leech is gone. They grab her groceries, offering to carry them for her. They shove the food into her arms, their hearts pounding with adoration. Overwhelmed, Aaliyah sprints away from the crowd of admirers. The adventurers are left confused, still believing Inori must have had some kind of leverage over her. Fanatica throws Inori over her shoulder, and he lands with a thud. She grabs his face, her own glowing with a blue light. She tells him this will make him feel better. The Knight Templar, Fanatica, reaches out with a glowing blue hand, a crazed but cheerful smile on her face. "This will make you feel better," she declares. She places her hand on Inori's face, and he screams as the holy magic courses through him. He's surrounded by a green healing aura, but it seems more annoying than helpful as he blinks it away. She cheerfully asks if he's feeling much better, lecturing him about drinking too much. Inori, looking completely sober now, is just confused. He asks who she is. She happily reintroduces herself as Fanatica, the Knight Templar. He repeats her title, still dazed. She tells him he can just call her Fana. Or, Master. She grabs his hand and says, "Now, let's go." She leads him toward a grand church, announcing that it's time to pray. Meanwhile, Aaliyah has followed them and is peeking around a corner, looking worried. She can't believe her eyes. Are they holding hands already? She thinks in a panic. And why do they look so close? She continues to spy on them, a look of pure anxiety on her face. She wonders, completely clueless, is this how commoners' relationships work? Suddenly, Fenrir appears from the shadows, startling her. He warns, that woman is dangerous. She's happy to see her fluffy companion, calling out his nickname, Fenny. Fenrir explains that the woman carries a strong scent of God's blessing. Aaliyah repeats his words, confused. God's blessing? Fenrir says he thought she was following because she sensed it too. Aaliyah quickly plays along, pretending she knew all along. Inside the massive church, Fanatica is still holding on to Inori, telling him how lucky he is. She asks for his name, and he gives her his alias, it's Kiri. Inori looks up at a large statue of a hooded figure, wondering what it is. The church is grand, with high ceilings and many robed figures praying. Fanatica explains it's a statue of their supreme deity and begins to teach him how to pray, showing him the specific hand gesture. She tells him to close his eyes and pray. Inori, looking completely out of place, decides to just go along with it. As he prays, he thinks that he's never really been the praying type. He's suddenly transported to a strange, watery void where a mysterious figure is praying. The strange vision startles him. He feels a strange sensation, like he's being watched or is connected to someone. He panics, wondering who is doing this and realizing it's not a power from this world, but something peering directly into his soul. He clenches his fist, furious at the intrusion. His red eye glows with rage. I don't recall inviting a voyeur into my heart, he thinks. Get out, whoever you are. He unleashes a powerful burst of energy, shattering the mental connection with a bang and falling unconscious. He wakes up to Fanatica looking at him, impressed. Oh ho! I didn't expect you to pray so deeply. She's ecstatic, saying how prayer makes everything better and that his cleansed mind brings her joy. She announces they're moving on to the next stage. As they walk away, Inori thinks about how the feeling of being linked is gone, but he can't help but wonder what that mysterious power was. He has a feeling he'll be back in that strange place again. Far away, in a divine realm, a white-haired goddess remarks, so he has severed the path. Another goddess with blue hair is shocked, her heart pounding. She says, indeed. I did not know there was a human capable of such. She is one of 5 goddesses, including the one Inori knows, all gathered in a celestial hall. She speaks his name, Inori. Tako Fuji. The adventurers in the tavern look nervous as Inori stumbles back in. He approaches the old man he was drinking with earlier and asks if there's still room for his drinking buddy. The old man looks up in surprise and says, "Welcome back, boy. Looks like someone made a man out of you." Inori's face is a mess of bruises, cuts, and swelling. He just replies, "That's one way to put it." A flashback shows his training with Fanatica, which was basically her beating him up with her holy powered fists. She tells him to get ready for more. He gets hit in the back as he tries to run away. He thinks about how she hits like a truck and wonders if it's because he's weak to her light elemental damage. He manages to catch one of her punches, surprising her. She praises his sharp perception but notes his physical skills don't match. He thinks she's got him figured out, but then gets pummeled again. Aliyah and Fenrir watch from behind a tree, with Fenrir asking if they should intervene. Fenrir says that the master's orders were only to interfere if he's in grave danger. It notes that he could easily escape but is choosing to endure, which must mean he has a plan. Finally, Inori has enough and makes a run for it. Fanatica is confused by his sudden escape. Back in the tavern, the old man is impressed he managed to outrun her. Inori, nursing his wounds, says he's never run so fast in his life. The old man explains that Knight Templars are specialists in light elemental attacks and use artifacts to kill fiends and demons. He advises Inori to study their tactics, though it won't get him far since he can't use artifacts. Inori agrees, saying that's what he thought. He then freezes, realizing he never told the old man he can't use artifacts. Just then, Fanatica bursts into the tavern, having found him. She grabs him by the face, calling him an exceptional runner but declaring that recess is over. He yells for the old man to help him. She drags him out of the tavern, wondering what they should do for training next. He screams that he thought they were friends, but the old man just sips his drink. Aliyah watches with a concerned expression from the trees. Inori narrates that Fanatica continued to beat him to a bloody pulp. He knew it would be bad since it was daytime and his powers were weakened, but it still sucked. She yells at him that he can't get stronger by slacking off. In the end, he asks her to take him to church, not wanting to die before he can think of a plan. She's overjoyed, thinking her methods moved his heart. He just plays along, calling her his revered mentor. He thinks to himself that this is a great opportunity to rest and investigate the church at the same time. His fake smile skill even levels up. Inside the church, he gets a creepy feeling. He wonders if his mentor and the other clerics are watching him, but his detection skill picked up nothing from them last time. He decides to try an ability from a different world, his identify skill, and scans the entire room. He notes that he's not picking up anything from the clerics or their goods. There's nothing under the floor or above the ceiling either. But then he notices something strange about the statue. He uses his demon eye to get a closer look and finds a hidden artifact. Gotcha, he thinks, as a glowing green object is revealed. Inori's internal monologue exclaims, "Gotcha," as his identify skill reveals the nature of the glowing green artifact, a gem of divine radiance from the holy nation of Rhine, a medium for the goddess's power. He wonders if this is how the deities connect with their followers. A thought strikes him: the goddess he's been dealing with is probably not one of them. Judging by the 5 statues in the church, he guesses there are 5 goddesses in this world's pantheon. A sweat drop runs down his face as he processes the information. He thinks with a sense of dread, looks like I accidentally rubbed their pantheon the wrong way. He decides it was worth the visit. As they leave the prayer hall, Fanatica is suddenly starstruck. She stammers, "That man." He's Inori, confused, asks her what's wrong. A distinguished-looking man enters the church. The other clerics recognize him as Sir Raven, the 4th captain of the Knight Templar and the hero of legend. Fanatica is practically swooning. She excitedly explains that he protected the city from raging fiends 10 years ago and is a living legend. It's her first time seeing him up close. Inori figures he's Fanatica's superior and tells her he'll go greet him. She gets flustered and tells him to go ahead. Inori walks towards the celebrated hero. He thinks to himself, the hero of legend, huh? I'm pretty sure he's not as strong as Gianna, but it won't hurt to identify him. Suddenly, Sir Raven's eyes snap wide open, staring directly at Inori. Inori panics, thinking, did I get caught? He quickly sits down among the praying clerics, trying to blend in. He's not sure if Raven sensed his ability, but his reaction was definitely not normal. Not making it easy for me, are you? He thinks. One of the nuns asks Sir Raven if something is amiss. Raven looks down the hall toward Inori and says ominously, I smell it. The scent of my people. A sudden slam echoes as Aaliyah watches from a rooftop, lost in thought. She thinks to herself that Inori, or Kiri, has done nothing but train since that day. She sighs, thinking that it's been a while since they chatted. In a training session, Fanatica compliments Inori on his dodging skills and asks where he learned to fight against artifacts. He thanks her and says Ariana taught him what a nuisance they can be. Fanatica tells him it'll get boring if all he does is defend and asks if there's a weapon he's good at using. He unleashes his black magic, creating shadowy blades. Fanatica is amazed, but Inori flatly denies having any particular skill. Nope. I see, she replies. His display gives her an idea. After he slams a training dummy, she tells him to buy a weapon tomorrow, declaring that no adventurer should be unarmed. Since he has to meet Sir Raven anyway, she gives him the day off. She throws a pouch of money at him, telling him to spend it well. He just thinks, what an impulsive nun. She adds that she's going to inspect his new weapon the day after. Later, as the sun sets, Inori approaches Aaliyah on the rooftop. He asks if she's been watching him to find weaknesses. She denies it, saying she found none. He teases her, asking if she found nothing even with Fenrir watching in shifts. They sit together in silence, watching the sunset. She finally breaks the silence, asking what business he has with her. He asks if she's free tomorrow, explaining that his mentor wants him to buy a weapon. He asks her to go shopping with him, flattering her by saying she's the expert on the city's shops. He adds that he can go alone if she's busy. She gets incredibly excited, her eyes sparkling as she exclaims that she'll go with him since she's very free at the moment. She's overjoyed, asking what he'd do without her and suggesting they go back to their room at once to prepare. She grabs his hand and starts dragging him away. He asks why she's so excited, but she just denies it and tells him to hurry.